Is it time?
It is time for us to do what we have been doing, and that time is every day.
We'll know in a very short period of time, but it looks like it could be something that will be not good. Believe me, not good.
I see issue with that. And again, hey.
You're not going to be able to insult your way to the presidency. That's not going to happen.
I don't know who created Pokemon Go, but I'm trying to figure out how we get them to have Pokemon go to the polls.
I'm Ted Cruz, and my pronoun is kiss my ass.
So when you think about it, there is great significance to the passage of time in terms of what we need to do to lay these wires, what we need to do to create these jobs.
America is a nation that can be defined in a single word. I was going to put him.
Not good. Believe me, not good.
Hello, dissidents. Welcome one and all to a special morning dew edition of the Dew Dissidents podcast. Keaton Weiss here with Russell Dobler, of course.
Hello.
Hold on, my mic is blocking my neck beard. I gotta lower it. There we go. I'm gonna shave today.
Gotta see that neck beard. Yeah.
I think I'm due for a shave today. It's time. I get these razor blades, and I get those Harry's razors, right? And I buy like a 5-pack of razor blades because I figure, with the frequency that I shave, that'll last me like a year. But not really, because shaving my face is like clearing brush. like if George Bush had my facial hair, he wouldn't have that hobby because he would just be clearing brush. So it wears the blades out. So it doesn't work as well as I planned. I might need some new razor blades soon.
Yeah, you're starting to look a little like you did during those halcyon days of the pandemic.
Yeah. I mean, not quite that bad.
Remember those days? You want to see me and Keaton literally looking like we're doing a podcast in a post-nuclear bunker? Yeah. Go back and watch some of those very early episodes. Those aren't even on YouTube, right? Because we used to do those on Facebook. I don't even know where they are. Yeah,
we weren't even on YouTube at the time. I don't even know where those are. But you can find them somewhere. They're in the vault.
We look pretty fucked up. At one point, I've got a shaved head, and Keaton's just got this beard in there.
Maybe I'll open up one of the hard drives and pull some out of the archives. We could show some screenshots on Sunday. Because I don't even know where those videos would be at this point.
Like we had pretty much just started doing this as a video format.
Yeah, for the longest time we weren't even doing video. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we only did audio.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. No, it is starting to look that way. I'm gonna have to probably get a haircut and shave, so I'll probably be my baby face self on Sunday would be my guess. But we have a great show for you guys today. We appreciate everybody tuning in last night for the premiere of our Kim Iverson interview. That seemed to be very, very well received, so we hope you guys enjoyed that. That's up in its entirety right now on YouTube and Rumble, and we'll be putting out clips throughout the next few days.
The really big news we made there is we might be able to get Kim to lay down a drum track.
Yeah, for Werewolves of London. Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yep. Somebody says I look pale. Am I well? Yeah, I mean, I'm getting over a cold, but it's mostly the lighting in here. In the morning, the light is a little tricky in here because I don't have blackout curtains or anything. So in the morning, I probably look a little bit paler because I think we get AM sun in this window. Even though I have the blinds drawn, still sun makes it in. Plus, I got the ring light and everything. But yeah, don't worry. I'm all right. All right, folks, we got a lot to get to today. So why don't we get started? California has implemented a comedy ban. That's right. The comedy ban is active in California now.
Which means, on the bright side, Saturday Night Live is safe.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, they're East Coast anyway, but they could still air that in California. It's not
they can still air it. You just can't make it in California. So, all the podcasters out there, Jimmy, you better come to New York. He says he loves it here.
Yeah.
Yeah, you should come to New York. Kim should come to New York. Who else is out there doing this?
Pasta's out there part-time. Yeah.
Is he out there part-time?
Yeah, I think he splits his time now. Yeah.
Yeah, you guys do any kind of AI generated parody, you're going to be in trouble. You're going to have to go old school, man. Nose putty.
Yeah.
You're going to have to glue on the fake beards now.
That's right.
So Gavin Newsom signs election deepfake ban in rebuke to Elon Musk. Elon. California Governor Gavin Newsom signed the country's toughest law banning digitally altered political deepfakes on Tuesday, following through on a vow to act after rebuking Elon Musk for sharing a doctored video of Vice President Kamala Harris. I love how they put that. A doctored video. You see, this is how the media manipulates you. They use very loaded terms like that. They didn't say anything, but they say a lot to give you a certain slant on the story.
Yeah, for those who lack the background on this, the video in question, which we won't even play because you never know what the rules are here. Now you have to mark everything parody if it's parody.
Right.
The video in question is a fake ad, a parody ad, something that you would air on SNL.
Obviously a joke.
That is obviously a joke where Kamala's voice in voiceover says, "Hi, I'm a diversity hire and I'm not qualified, but vote for me anyway because I'm happy and new." It's something like that.
I can't believe she recorded something like that about herself. Like who in the world thought that when they heard that?
Very obviously a parody ad, obvious within the first 10 seconds of the ad that it's a spoof. Right. It's not a doctored video. The intention was not to pass that off as Kamala Harris. The intention was satire. Course. Obviously. Yes. The most obvious thing in the world. Yeah.
Yes. The new California law, which will take effect before the November election, channels rising alarm about artificial intelligence's capacity to disrupt elections by sowing misinformation, with voters increasingly confronted with deepfake images and audio impersonating candidates. Musk, who owns X, stoked that debate when he shared the AI-altered video of Harris in July, drawing Newsom's public promise to prohibit similar practices. Quote, "I could care less if it was Harris or Trump." Sure you could. Right, Newsom told Salesforce CEO Mark Benioff during a conversation on Tuesday. It was just wrong on every level. No, I'm sure if they dropped a equivalent video of Trump saying, "I'm a big fat slob who's never accomplished anything without my daddy's money," yeah, he would have passed this law right away. Right away. Newsom also signed a companion bill on Tuesday that targets deepfakes by compelling platforms to pull down such content when users flag them, although that bill will not take effect until next year. He signed a third measure requiring disclaimers on political ads that use AI. The new laws help cement California's leading role in regulating emergent AI, and also cements its role as the state going downhill the fastest in America. Even as the state's, that was my editorial comment, Politico would never say such a thing, even as the state's homegrown tech industry has pushed back and blocked some laws, Democratic state lawmakers have embraced those efforts as a divided Congress struggles to advance meaningful legislation, and concerns about AI's potentially anti-democratic downsides reverberate around the world. Newsom signed the measures on the same day Democratic Rep. Adam Schiff, the frontrunner to become California's next senator, helped introduce a similar bill to ban fraudulent AI campaign ads. Deputy U.S. Attorney General Lisa Monaco highlighted AI threats, including those emanating from foreign adversaries, during Politico's AI and Tech Summit on Tuesday. Quote, "It is the ultimate double-edged sword. It holds great promise, but also exceptional peril, because it's lowering the barrier to entry for all sorts of malicious actors. And we claim the right to be the only malicious actors in the propaganda space," Monaco went on. "There will be changes in law. She didn't say that. There will be changes in law, I'm confident, over time." The California ban on campaign deepfakes will allow courts to issue injunctions blocking people from distributing intentionally deceptive political content during election season, and it exposes people who share deepfakes to civil penalties. The bill was intentionally written to take effect before the November election. Assembly member Gail Pellerin, a Santa Cruz Democrat and former county elections official who carried the bill, has repeatedly warned that the 2024 cycle represented the nation's first AI election. The measure also includes deceptive content about election officials to shield against candidates and others targeting poll workers in the aftermath of elections, as former President Donald Trump has explicitly done. The debate about AI in politics has set concerns about misinformation and election integrity against warnings about eroding free speech protections. Tech companies have argued restrictions on AI alterations may undercut the First Amendment, and Musk noted in an X reply to Newsom that parody is legal in America. The back and forth between Newsom and Musk over AI content adds another chapter to their tumultuous years-long relationship. A former San Francisco mayor with deep tech industry ties, Newsom has lauded Musk for helping to launch the electric car industry through Tesla, growing the company with the help of generous state subsidies. But they have clashed as Musk's politics have veered to the right, and he has blasted California officials for pandemic shutdown orders, as well as transgender student privacy legislation. Some of those disputes have played out in court. An appeals court recently backed X's challenge to a 2022 law signed by Newsom that requires social media companies to disclose more information about their content moderation policies. Okay, so at least one sector of society is very happy about this. Impersonators, because AI was just about to put them out of business. And hey, now everybody who does a great Obama, does a great Trump, does a great Kamala Harris, you're back in business, baby.
That's right.
They're gonna have to hire you.
Bailed out.
Held out. I said this when I was doing Jimmy's show in LA. One of the only places that was accessible to me without a car that I could reasonably get to by public transportation was Hollywood Boulevard. And you have all the souvenir shops there. And in one of the souvenir shops, they would play these Obama promotions. Only $5 for every item if you fill your basket in the next hour. And I said to the guy working there, I was like, that guy does a great Obama. He was like, yeah, it's AI. And I said, and I thought about it, and I was like, wow, man, yeah, impersonators are out of a job. AI can, you're never going to get a person who can do it as well as an AI can. It's going to take the actual vocal patterns and just recreate them. But now I guess at least in California, it's going to become an oasis for impersonators. If I were to game this out over the next 10 years, I think you're probably going to get an impersonator separatist movement. There will probably be a town in California that incorporates as its own state.
Where everyone is someone else. That'll be the
everyone is someone else.
Welcome to X, where everyone is someone else. No, the stupidity of this law, is incredible, because when you think about it, this is really only to be used against satire. I mean, when you think about it, has there been a candidate who has tried to actually use AI in a deceptive ad? If they did that, they would be caught very quickly. If you tried to cut together an attack ad against AOC, where an AI-generated AOC is saying something that AOC didn't say, that would be big news immediately. It would be discrediting, if not disqualifying. Like, who out there is actually going to do that? Or some yahoos on the internet might do that, sure, and they could be sued for that. I mean, that's fraudulent to misrepresent someone in that way if you're doing it with that intent. Satire is not done with that intent, quite obviously. Right. And so when Politico refers to the ad, the altered ad, that was not an ad. That was not a campaign ad.
No.
That was a
satire.
Piece of satire.
Yes.
That was an artistic piece.
Well, that's what I mean. This is how they do it. This is how they drum up a narrative. This is why you'll talk to your lib relatives and they're completely disconnected from reality.
Right. They'll say that was an altered ad. No, it was not an altered ad. Just because you read it in Politico doesn't mean it was an altered ad. That was obviously a piece of satire, and that is, that kind of expression is what will be cracked down upon the most, because you'd have to be a total imbecile as a candidate or a PAC for a candidate to actually engage in that type of fraud. You would be called out immediately for it. It would be flagged immediately. This is the internet. 99% of misinformation gets flagged and community noted with a checkbox that say, hey, this is fake or this is wrong. And as is the case with most social media censorship, most of what they would have legitimate grounds to censor you for is stuff that is illegal anyway, which means you don't need the censorship. Right. Exactly. It is illegal to impersonate a political candidate and fraudulently pass off an AI version of them as them. That is in violation of all kinds of, campaign laws. And so that means you don't need the censorship. You have legal structure.
Well, this is the Jerry Falwell precedent covers this. Would a reasonable person construe it as satire?
Right.
Just because it's AI. Okay, so all you accomplish with that, and I made a joke out of it, but really it's true. Okay, well, so you're just going to have to keep doing it old school, but you can produce the same thing. You need an impersonator. If you want some images that are not real, you need some graphic designers. And that's it. So that's legal. You just can't do the same exact thing with AI. It's completely nonsensical.
Yeah. Yep. And you're right. Obviously, if that were an AI Trump satire, that would not have been passed with this same urgency, at least, for sure. For sure. They'd think that was hilarious. They'd share that around far and wide.
Now, just to be fair, okay, is there a problem when you have AI now? I for some reason they were dropping this into my advertisement. I guess they figured I missed dead relatives. On Facebook, the last week they've been trying to sell me some service that will take your old family photos and use AI to put it in motion. Yeah, like turn your dead parents into like living when they were holding you as a baby. They'll be moving around. Okay, yeah. Are there legitimate concerns about AI and deepfakes? Sure. I think the reasonable compromise is, I could see passing something where you have to label satire as satire because the AI is so effective. Or if you're going to use AI to generate campaign ad content, that might be the same exact thing you would have hired a graphic designer to do, but it's cheaper, it's faster to just have the AI do it. Label AI generated content in this ad. I could see that as a reasonable piece of legislation to balance freedom of speech against the realities of what AI can do. But that is not what this is. That's not the intention here. The intention here is censorship.
Yeah, quite obviously, yes. Excuse me. Conda Strike, thanks for the $5 Rumble rant. DD at 9, what a perfect start to my workday. Well, thank you. Thank you, everybody, for waking up with us. Let's have a little Dolly Parton, shall we, to start the day off. Where we got that here? I can't find it. Russell knows his way.
I can get it. There we go. I made it.
There we go. I see it now.
Tumble out of bed and I stumble to the kitchen, pour myself a cup of ambition.
Eric Rousseau, thank you for the $1. Los Angeles Sheriff's Department policy now prohibits deputy gangs. No more comp gangs. Do they have to cover up their comp gang tats now? Thank you, Eric Rousseau. Abiding, you two spent the day collecting signatures for Jose Vega. Mark Hamill tweeted, I love Taylor Swift 350 times. You're not the same. Thank you, Abiding.
Did he actually do that?
Did he actually do? Yeah, I don't know. I didn't hear that. Thank you for that, though. Peter Monahan.
He did tell MAGA people in the Star Wars fandom to go force themselves.
Oh, wow. That's clever.
He did, yeah.
Peter Monahan, thanks for the $20 on YouTube. Been gone through tons of appointments the last 2 days, another full day of appointments today. They postponed my surgery until the 16th in order to ensure my chemistry and platelet levels high enough to do the surgery. Wish me luck. Well, good luck. Godspeed, my friend.
Good luck.
Absolutely. Michael Castillo, thanks for the $10. The intro music sounds like Santo and Johnny from Brooklyn. Nice. Well, that's an old reference. They were around, in the 50s? Thank you, Michael. Appreciate that. Thanks for the $2. JM and the thumbs up. Appreciate that. Samuel Bruce wants the beard. Hashtag save the beard for $4.99. Kuznetsky Bassane, thanks for the $4.99 super sticker. And Samuel Bruce for another $4.99. Thank you again. Says, Keaton, be a man of the people and let the payers decide on whether you keep or cut the beard. Hashtag save the beard. I think
his wife gets the final say there.
She gets the final say. She's pretty laissez-faire about that. She kind of lets me do what I want in this respect. But yeah, no, it's time. It's getting uncomfortable, and I like to keep. I like to keep a medium sort of like shadow. That's my look, but it's too hard to maintain. I would need like an electric razor set to a certain setting, which I guess is not that hard to get and keep track of. It's just the problem with the electric razor is keeping track of it. Because the thing about the electric razor is you don't really have to like stand in one place and shave. You can walk around with it. And I have ADD, so like if I'm carrying something around, I'll put it down, forget where I put it, and then that'll be that. So yeah, that's the one thing that makes that difficult. We got 1100.
I do not shave over the weekend.
No.
Once we're done today, I do not shave again until Sunday.
There you go. So you never see. So it's not that Russell doesn't grow it out. You never see it. He grows it out on Fridays and Saturdays. Yep. Yes. Those are Russell's scruffy days. We got 1100 in the YouTube chat. We got 644 in the Rumble chat. Thank you guys all for being here. Please hit that like button. Please hit that subscribe button on YouTube. Hit that follow button on Rumble. We're also streaming to locals for the public, and paid members have access to that chat. So this is our maiden voyage in that respect. So we are streaming to locals right now. For what that's worth. Okay, let's keep on going. Alrighty, folks. We got a bunch of videos actually to play for you guys today. This is the first one, and this is some audio from the Joe Rogan Experience. It's always a crapshoot whether or not they're gonna pull your video if you play Rogan stuff. I don't know what the copyright rules on that. So to be safe, we've used the audio of an episode with Joe Rogan and Tom Segura. Is it Tom or Tim Segura? I forget. It's written down in the video here. But here's Joe Rogan saying what we've been saying about the state of the campaign. So I know we have ruffled some feathers by acknowledging the fact that Donald Trump is really blowing this and that Kamala is being managed very well. But this is a good piece of audio to show you guys. So here, the most red-pilled man in all of Texas seems to agree with us. So this is Exhibit A for our case.
Or at least in Austin.
In Austin, that's right. That's right.
Let me tell you, before I say anything, I just want to say, whoever's helping her, whoever's coaching her, whoever's the puppet master running the strings, you did a fucking amazing job.
She did a great job.
They did an amazing job from the moment Biden drops out, forcing Biden to drop out. Right, whatever they're doing, whoever's writing those speeches, getting her to deliver them, coaching her, she's nailing it. She nailed that one speech. She's like, "Say it to my face."
Oh yeah,
everybody's cheering.
Yeah, she nailed it, dude.
And then last night, to me, when I was like, "Oh my God, this is jujitsu," where she's like, "If you go to his rallies, his crowds are boring. They're tired. They all leave. My crowds are the best crowds. I have the number one crowd." He couldn't help himself.
And she got him. She baited him on that. She walked him right into it.
100%. 100%. See, the difference in that debate was not a difference in like who's going to have better policies, who's going to be better for the country. The difference in the debate, in my opinion, was who was better prepared. She was way better prepared. And even when it came to answering tough questions, instead of answering, she would just say things that she believes.
Yeah, sure.
And they sounded real good.
Yeah, that's
the soundbite.
That's called being a savvy politician.
It's also called being someone who's working with a team versus someone who's like, they said Trump, that deal was the best deal. They've never seen a deal like this before. They said, "How did you put that deal together?"
People thought that was just brilliant. Yeah, I know. He was like,
he's not working with a team that's like, I mean, I know he's doing like mock debates. I know he did one with, I think he did one with Tulsi Gabbard, but someone needs to like tell him, like, you've got these tiny little windows and you should have all the words ready for those windows.
So there you have it. There you have it from the man himself. Don't kill the messenger. We're just telling you what is perceivable to the average person. And I think part of Joe Rogan's appeal is that he, comes off as a more or less average Joe, no pun intended. But, now when you look at the math of the race, and I think Russ kind of put this well a couple shows back, where like mathematically, mentally, it seems like Trump has the edge. Kamala's up nationally in the popular vote. The swing state polling is now an absolute dead heat. Like literally, according to Real Clear Politics, they are tied at, I believe, 47.8 points apiece in the average of swing states. So it is a dead heat in the swing states. Yeah. So, I mean, this is, as polling-wise, it's as 50-50 as you could possibly get, which means the real question now, and this is where your gut comes into play, which electorate is it going to be? If the polls are tied, if the electorate looks like 2016, that means Trump wins. If the electorate looks like 2022, that means Kamala wins. My gut at this point is that it's going to be more of a 2022 type turnout. That is what my gut says. Now, can I back that up? Not really. The only thing I would say at this point is that in 2022, those midterms, see, we made the mistake in 2022 of looking too much into the online game. Oh, Tulsi Gabbard endorsed Balduch up in New Hampshire. That means he's going to win. It hardly did anything, right? Yep. On Twitter, that's huge news. In real life, that's not such huge news, right? So I don't want to make that mistake again. But also, I felt in 2022 a much more palpable rage in the air. I mean, I remember I went to get a slice of pizza at a local pizzeria the Monday before the vote. So election day is Tuesday. It was the day before, and I order some pizza. I go to the bathroom. I come back, and the guy behind the counter is ranting to his coworker about how expensive everything is, and he's just on a tear about his taxes. He's just scary. So I said jokingly, so I guess you're looking forward to voting tomorrow. He says, oh, I can't fucking wait to vote tomorrow, man. I'm so pissed off. And there was rage in the air because don't forget, at that point, the shock of inflation was newer. It felt like there was just this incompetence in the air. It felt like every time you left the house, you were in for an adventure, right? Where the lines would be so long because the stores were understaffed. Everything was so expensive. The supply chains were off. So the stores were half empty and everything cost a fortune. And even in that example, the normie, Dobbs vote came out and overcame that palpable rage. I don't sense rage in the air now. I sense exhaustion in the air now. And Kamala seems to be that sort of Xanax that you could just take and go quietly into that good night. I don't sense the same rage. And so for that reason, I tend to think
Kamala is essentially the Seneca candidate. You're going to go into a warm bath and self-delete with Kamala.
Yeah. I don't mean literally, obviously, go quietly. I mean, send the country to its end peacefully rather than go out in chaos. Remember the show Midnight Mass, where there's that very poignant scene where they all are infected with whatever the thing is, and it's late at night, and all the townspeople are just sort of very quiet and reserved about the fact that when the sun comes up, their time is done. And they all are kind of at peace with that. That's the Kamala campaign. The Trump campaign, remember, it cuts to the psycho woman who's frantically digging under the sand to try and get away with it and screaming. That's the Trump campaign, right? So if I had to create a metaphor, that would be that. And I think, when you start seeing guys like Rogan sort of start to notice that, because Rogan's audience is the online audience. I mean, this is the edgelord Twitter audience. So when even he is starting to see, hey, you know what? Kamala's doing what she has to do. Doesn't mean he likes Kamala Harris. Doesn't mean he approves of that. She's doing what she has to do to appeal to people in this moment. I think there is a recognition in there that, yes, this is a country that has given up on itself. This is a country that's not really ready to fight this out. And that's really the question. Is the country accepting of its fate, or is the country really frantic to try and save itself? I think that is embedded subconsciously throughout the population. And that's why my gut says Kamala's going to eke out wins in these swing states. Now, I could very well be wrong. The math suggests I probably am wrong. a dead heat in the polls tends to favor Trump. You know, Trump has more paths on the electoral map to 270 than Kamala. Less stuff has to go right for Trump to get to 270.
Yeah.
So I could absolutely be wrong, but I sense the mood in the country is one of resignation, not of resistance. That's my sense.
Okay. And you know, as I heard you go on that monologue, I can already hear the objections. I'm so angry I chew glass in the morning as soon as I get out of bed. All right, well, that's you.
Right, that's you.
That's you. That is the mistake that a lot of people who are terminally online make. They think they represent a lot of people because people who are that angry are disproportionately represented online of all ideological stripes. They spend a lot of time screaming into the void because they've burned out everyone they know in real life. So it's the only place they can go to really express these things where they're not going to just be ignored. So you wind up having the notion that there's a lot of you, and then whenever it's put to the test, you realize you're Tobias. We are dozens.
Right.
Dozens. It's not. Yeah, absolutely. The country is falling apart, and there is a lot of despair and anger out there. Remember, a huge portion of people who feel that way have checked out of the political system entirely. They're just not even voting. If they did, neither one of these candidates would be running.
Of course,
if you had something like 80-90% voter participation, where there's just too many people in the system for the Democrats to rig their elections and their primary process, or for the Republicans to be taken over by a kind of nationalist movement that is rightly rejecting the old neocon establishment, but hanging its solutions on a completely unsuitable figure in the figure of Trump to really reform the system. Yeah, neither one of these people would be running. But the people who are most angry, they're not participating. They're not participating. Yeah. So, and within the Republican Party, you still have a lot of those registered Republican voters who are Mitt Romney Republicans. And the more of a freak show that the Trump campaign becomes, the more they're going to sit it out. Or in the burbs, a lot of them will end up voting for Kamala. The Trump campaign is making itself so bizarre and so threatening to a lot of people, whether you feel that way or not, that you're increasing the number of voters who are going to say, better the devil I know. I pretty much know what Kamala is going to do with this. Who knows? Who knows? I don't want 4 years of fighting over Project 2025 or whatever the fuck. As Keaton says, there's a resignation. Let's just keep going this way, and hopefully we don't have a nuke coming over the horizon one morning as I'm having my coffee.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, look, I think that is pretty much right. And look, when we talk about terminally online people, we don't mean that in a condescending way. We are terminally online. I mean, we make a living online. This is what we do. I'm a very online person. I think the lesson of 2022 was that we don't reflect the norm in society. We are the exception. I mentioned, yeah. Exactly. I mentioned the Nate Silver book a few shows back, The Signal and the Noise. There's a lot of information in every cycle. Most of it is noise, meaning most of it is not useful to predict an outcome.
Right.
There are few pieces of information in every cycle that you can use to predict an outcome. So, for example, in 2022, there was a lot of noise in that election about the supply chain and about inflation and about gas prices and stuff like that. And that was all real information. It was legit information. But the signal, the most relevant piece of data in that campaign cycle was that Kansas, 2 months before the national vote, voted 60-40 to codify abortion rights in its state constitution. Right. If you knew that and nothing else, you would have predicted the 2022 outcome much better than if you had known everything else but that. Do you follow? So, like, if the only thing you knew to try and guess how that national election was going to go was that Kansas voted 60-40 pro-choice. You would have predicted the outcome better than if you knew everything else but didn't know that piece of information. And what seems to be the big piece of information this cycle is that even when Biden was tanking and Trump was surging, there was a set of polls that came out that said a generic Democrat still beat Trump handily. And that seems to be the relevant piece of information that not only is useful to predict an outcome, but was very useful in shaping the strategy of the Kamala Harris campaign. Okay, we have this data that says even as our candidate's in the toilet and Trump is surging, we still know a non-entity polls better than Trump. So there's no such thing as an actual non-entity, but if we can make Kamala as much of a non-entity as possible, we could maybe squeak this out.
Right.
Yeah.
2016, the most relevant signal to me was everyone I talked to back home, which was very kind of blue collar area, which in New York, the politics are the same as blue collar areas anywhere in the country. I knew people who would have voted for Sanders if he had been the candidate. I knew people who were going to vote for Trump. I did not know one single person who was voting for Hillary. And I said, if that's true where I come from, that's true in areas like that everywhere, all over the country. Second most important signal, and I think of it to this day, I don't know who published this article, but there was an article that was on the ground talking to voters in the Midwest. And there was a guy who was a Democrat. And he said, talking of Hillary Clinton, he said, I'd rather have someone stick a wet noodle up my ass than listen to another one of her speeches. And I said, it's 50-50. And only 50-50 because he's Donald Trump, you know, like, there were plenty of reasons for people not to vote for him, but she was so despised, even by people who were Democrats, and the people who were crazy about her were kind of electorally meaningless because they're all concentrated in deep blue cities that don't matter.
Right. Yes. Yep. Absolutely. All right. Nocturnal Human. I said this before, but I disagree with Kim that Trump would bring worse censorship. Social media banning accounts is less concerning than the government imprisoning people for opinions, like with Uhuru. Yeah. I mean, I think that is a legit point. I think what she was saying
the question is would he not?
Right. Well, I think what she's also saying, and I've made this point in the past,
wasn't the Uhuru case brought under Trump or not?
No, it was brought under
it was
Biden.
Biden. It was
2022.
Yeah.
Funny how time flies, right?
It really does.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah. But yeah, no, I mean, I think what she was saying, and I've made this point as well, is that in a certain respect, it's kind of 6 of one, half dozen of the other, because if Trump wins, the tech companies are going to take it upon themselves to censor because, oh my God, Trump won, we have to do something. That's when they took Alex Jones off the air. Don't forget, they didn't censor him under Obama. They censored him when Trump won. I would argue because Trump won. And then obviously, if Kamala wins, you're going to see pressure exerted on these social media companies, much in the way Gavin Newsom just signed a law that's, you know, outlaws AI satire and things like that. They will pressure these social media companies to continue censorship. So, yeah, that's where I think it comes down. I think it will probably get worse anyway. But that's, yeah, not to minimize your point. Obviously, the crackdown on speech now is horrible, and I think it will get worse if Kamala wins. For sure.
Well, something else actually, and I didn't want to get into it because we had limited time with her. I didn't want to spend 20 minutes on gender ideology.
Right.
The idea that government doesn't have a role in that, I think she was wrong about, because you do have Title IX, which is at the federal level, and even on the state level, there's a government dimension to it. Like, yeah, sure, there are activists, and you could say that's a separate issue, but ultimately legislating whether or not books like genderqueer are in public schools, that's a government issue. So the idea that that's entirely like driven from the bottom, that I didn't agree with. I didn't get into it though, because I knew that was going to eat up 20 minutes of the segment.
Right.
As soon as we went there, I said it's just not worth getting into.
That's right. James Vanderzanden, thanks for the $2 on YouTube. U.S. will excuse anything except defunding genocide. Thank you. Gavin Hillock, thanks for the €2. Another example of how fascism doesn't do comedy. That's right. Conor McGregor, are y'all open to new sponsors? Biggest of ups. Yes, we are. In fact, I'll plug this right now since you asked. So we have now a sponsors form. So if any of you guys have a small business or a passion project or an organization that you work with and you would like us to do an ad read for it on the show, we are willing and ready and eager to partner with some of you guys. So if you go to dudissidents.com/sponsors, there's a little Google form that you could fill out. Tell us, what your monthly budget is, a little bit about the organization, who you are, contact information, and then we will get back to you and we'll work something out. So yes, Connor, we are open to new sponsors. In fact, we want to be able to work with some of you guys who support the show by watching it. If you have something that you want to promote to our audience, that's what that's there for. So dudissidents.com/sponsors. Okay, let's go to the judge. If Harris wins, it's time for Texit. Yeah, there you go. Yeah. Thank you very much, the judge. Appreciate that. Pager's exploding. It's the lawnmower man for sure. Mossad must have recruited him. Thank you, Eric. Appreciate that. We are getting to that, of course. That's the major story of the day. Okay, let's see what we got in here. Wereskill, thanks for the $5. In the year 2036, the Hawk Tuah girl will get canceled by the left. She'll reemerge on Daily Wire as the Hawk of Judah pro-Zionist podcast. Yes. Yes, that's good. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Cool Blue is our Steve Kornacki. We're going to have to get you at least backstage access to our election night. You're going to have to help us aggregate data on our election night stream, Cool Blue. If you don't want to appear on camera, we would at least like to get you to our StreamYard so you can give us notes as the data comes in. But Cool Blue says, my feeling is 6 weeks out, Kamala Harris will win. Yep, the tide has turned, no doubt. Okay, let's do another piece. Okay, this was really interesting news that broke yesterday. The Teamsters announced no endorsement for U.S. president. That's right. The Teamsters, breaking with a long tradition of endorsing Democrats, is not endorsing in the 2024 race, so they put this out as a press release on their site. The General Executive Board of the International Brotherhood of Teamsters on Wednesday elected not to endorse any candidate for U.S. president. After reviewing 6 months of nationwide member polling and wrapping up nearly a year of rank-and-file roundtable interviews with all major candidates for the presidency, the union was left with few commitments on top Teamsters issues from either former President Donald Trump or Vice President Kamala Harris, and found no definitive support among members for either party's nominee. It's not exactly true, which we'll get to in a minute. The Teamsters thank all candidates for meeting with members face-to-face during our unprecedented roundtables. Unfortunately, neither major candidate was able to make serious commitments to our union to ensure the interests of working people are always put before big business. We sought commitments from both Trump and Harris not to interfere in critical union campaigns or core Teamsters industries, and to honor our members' right to strike. That sound familiar? But we're unable to secure those pledges, said Teamsters General President Sean O'Brien. Quote, our mission as union representatives is clear: to be honest and upfront, to be inclusive, and above all, to be transparent with our membership. As the strongest and most democratic labor union in America, it was vital for our members to drive this endorsement process. Democrats, Republicans, and independents proudly call our union home, and we have a duty to represent and respect every one of them. We strongly encourage all our members to vote in the upcoming election and to remain engaged in the political process. But this year, no candidate for president has earned the endorsement of the Teamsters International Union. Okay, so they just said that neither of these candidates had definitive support, which is not exactly true. So they released their polling results from April to September. The Teamsters Union conducted in-person straw polls and commissioned independent polling rank-and-file members nationwide. So at the town hall straw polls, among those who showed up in person, This was before Biden dropped out, of course, from April 9th to July 3rd. The polling was Biden 44, Trump 36, RFK 5.6, and Cornel West 1.7. Now, the electronic member poll, which is up to September 15th, showed Trump winning pretty overwhelmingly. I mean, you can't really say that's not definitive. I mean, that's a landslide for Donald Trump. That's 60 to 34, with other candidates at 6.4. On the phone poll, Trump 58, Harris 31. Like, I'm sorry, if you're polling your members and you're saying, hey, we're going to honor the results of these polls, it's pretty clear the rank and file supports Donald Trump. Now, there are, I think, a couple of reasons why Biden edged out a narrow victory over Trump in the in-person poll, and Kamala is so far behind. I think partly when you do an in-person straw poll event, you're talking about the most like politically active members of the union, the ones who actually go to the events. And yeah, the closer you get to union leadership, the more democratic you're going to be. But more importantly, I would argue, the Biden versus Trump poll was taken July 3rd before Sean O'Brien spoke at the RNC. And don't forget, Sean O'Brien spoke at the RNC, did not endorse Trump, but thanked them for having him. He wanted to speak at the DNC, and what did the DNC say? No, you're not invited. So that shifted public opinion away from the Democrats as well, because the Democrats, because he had spoken at the RNC, he committed the sin of shopping his support around to the other party. They told him to go fuck himself when he asked to speak at the DNC. So those are a couple of factors that I think explain that disparity. But there's no question. I mean, if this were a union election where you're like, all right, we're honoring the will of the voters, yeah, I mean, Trump won the endorsement pretty much, did he not? I mean, fair is fair. I mean, that's not even close. Yeah.
Of course, yeah. It's a residual from the long relationship between labor unions and the Democratic Party in the 20th century, that the leadership is just not prepared to allow their members' voices to be heard to the extent of the freaking Teamsters endorsing the Republican candidate for president. So they took the coward's way out, basically.
Exactly. Yeah. Now, look, I personally think it's good that they didn't endorse either candidate. I think it's good for the labor movement to point out, hey, neither of these parties agreed to give us the right to strike. Neither of these parties would actually affirm their commitment to labor power when push comes to shove. We asked the Republicans, we asked the Democrats, hey, we need a commitment that you're not going to do what they did to the railroad workers. Neither side would give it to them. So I think that says a powerful thing. However, if you are running it the way they said they're running it, we're the most democratic and transparent labor union. Well, I'm sorry, Donald Trump won the endorsement. I mean, he just did. You might not like that if you're the leadership, but if you're really going to honor the rank and file, he would have won the endorsement. They would have endorsed him. But I want to look into this a little bit more. This is later on in the press release. During the Teamsters rank and file presidential roundtables, the union shared feedback from members in the railroad and airline industries who work under the Railway Labor Act and are at the mercy of government intervention that often prevents work stoppages, as what happened. What was that? End of 2023 that happened, right? Was that? No, that was the last. That was the year before. That was 2 years.
2022.
2022.
We had really just started doing the YouTube show.
That's right. Yeah. See, I keep saying time flies. That's right. That was 2022. Wow. While 10,000 Teamsters at United Airlines are currently negotiating a new agreement, tens of thousands of railroad Teamsters were forced to accept a new contract implemented by Congress without member support in 2022. There you go. Answered my own question there. In roundtable discussions with Trump in January and Harris this month, neither candidate promised not to intervene to force similar RLA contracts, which undermines workers' bargaining leverage. While Harris pledged, if elected, to sign the PRO Act, an essential piece of labor legislation strengthening union protections, and criticized dangerous right-to-work laws that are enacted to bankrupt unions, Trump would not commit to veto national right-to-work legislation if he returned to the White House. So I want to highlight this tweet here from AOC, because the California chapter of the Teamsters, as well as Nevada, Hawaii, and Guam, bucked the national organization. They went ahead and endorsed Kamala Harris. And so here's AOC the so-called labor-oriented Democratic Socialists. Sean O'Brien has been boosting Republicans all year while supporting anti-worker, anti-choice Senate candidates. Meanwhile, Kamala Harris cast a tie-breaking vote to save Teamster pensions nationwide. Listen to your local, they know the score. Thank you, California Teamsters. PAC. So there she is being salty with the labor leader because her party failed to earn their endorsement. I thought the whole point of sending people like AOC there was in response to the fact that Democrats had taken labor power for granted and that this is part of holding the party leadership accountable to labor and labor organizations. Instead, she adopts the party line, which is this guy committed, a treasonous act by appearing on stage at the RNC. Therefore, he's boosting Republicans. Therefore, we don't want him. He has the ick factor on him. And so screw him, and thank you to the state chapters here who fell in line. And I don't know that these were the only state chapters to fall in line, but I assume they are because that list is pretty small, and you would think if they wanted to make a statement, they would print a list of all the state chapters who endorsed Harris and Walsh. But our friend Nick Cruz responds to AOC.
They're very big in Guam.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, huge in Guam. The Teamsters president made it clear that they are not endorsing Kamala because she broke the rail strike. Remember how you helped the Biden administration break the rail strike? That's the reason they're not endorsing. I think he's absolutely right about that, because if you look at the press release, they spill a lot of ink about that Railway Labor Act enforcement. And they go on to say here in the second paragraph of this slide, they did see examples of Harris giving more to them than Trump did, i.e. she promised to sign the PRO Act, and she's saying that she will veto right to work laws. So they're saying, hey, like there were areas where we preferred the Democrats, but obviously that breaking up of the rail strike was a real sticking point. And not only did that make an impact when Biden and Harris did it, but Kamala Harris did not promise not to do it again. She did not promise to lay off. Hey, if this comes to a head again, because I think the contract expires. Well, it will definitely have expired by Harris's second term if she wins and is reelected, but I'm pretty sure it expires in the first term. So, hey, when this comes up for negotiation again, are you going to do what Biden did and just override our labor action and dictate the terms of our contract in law the way you did? Or are you going to let us go on strike? She did not commit. And that seems to be a huge reason, if not the reason, based on what I've read there, why they withheld their endorsement. And while, yes, I mean, if they honored the commitment of the rank and file, they would have endorsed Trump. It still is very significant that they have not endorsed a Democrat. I mean, this is decades of tradition that the Teamsters endorse Democrats. And so this is the first time in a while where they're not endorsing at all.
Yeah, this is something that seems to be reflected in the political attitude across the board. Nick is articulating it very clearly. He's definitely seeing things through this lens. The only way you have any chance of getting any kind of control over the Democrats is to punish them. And even that, frankly, is probably not going to work, because in the end, they answer to the money people.
Right.
But what's absolutely not going to work is they keep spitting in your face and you keep saying, well, the other guys are worse. Let's keep it real. The Republicans are worse for labor. That does not mean the Democrats are good.
Right.
Are the Republicans worse? Of course they are. Of course they are. They're in what they're talking about with the pensions. From what I know, the Republicans all voted the other way on preserving their pensions. So what do you think they're going to do with power?
Well, the Amazon drivers union effort, under a Republican-controlled NLRB, the NLRB would be an obstacle to that union drive.
Exactly.
I mean, they just would.
So,
I mean, fair is fair.
Let's be realistic.
Right.
Trump can go up there and talk about the forgotten man all he wants. How do you know a thing by what it does? And what the Republicans do is fight against labor power.
Right.
No question about that. But Angela Davis recently came out and said there was going to be more room for radical movements under Harris. And I would say it's quite the opposite. That kind of a Republican backlash against labor is going to further radicalize people, as the past 8 years have radicalized people. You finally got a fair number to the point, and with the Israeli genocide, lending a lot of fuel to that fire and pushing it over to the top. Where you got a lot of people who started on this Bernie Sanders journey and have just more and more been kicking and screaming to try to gain control of the electoral process through the Democratic Party. And just more and more and more are done. And you're seeing a critical mass of it, I think, in this election, where people are saying, well, as our friend Professor Zenka said, if they know they can get your vote after committing genocide, supporting genocide, they know there's nothing they can't do to you.
Right.
And I think a lot of people are realizing that. So the logic of the Teamsters not backing the Democrats is the same as everybody's logic. Well, maybe next time they'll feel like they have to earn your vote. Maybe next time they won't back breaking a railroad strike. Maybe next time they won't back a genocide. It's basically what Kim Iverson said in our interview with her, that in the end she prefers Trump because the Democrats just cannot be rewarded for the behavior that they've displayed.
Yep. Indeed. Ryan, thanks for the $20 on YouTube. Mark Halperin was told by 2 Democrat operatives on the ground in Pennsylvania that they don't think she can carry the state. And now the poll out of the Teamsters showing 58 support Trump. Not good for Harris. No, that is not a good sign for Harris. And yeah, Pennsylvania is the most important swing state. There's no doubt about that. It is almost impossible for Kamala to win without Pennsylvania, which is why, like I said, the math is in Trump's favor.
Sure.
There's no doubt the math is in Trump's favor.
But the math was in the Republicans' favor in 2022.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So I'm not arguing. Like, you could argue the case Trump's the favorite. The rational part of me says you're right about that. I have a feeling that the electorate's going to look more like 2022, where we were surprised at how many normies came out for Democrats. And the other thing, I mean, we're going to know this very, very quickly. We're going to know this very quickly. This is the first thing we're going to look for on election night when the returns come in is Trump running the same margins in the rural areas that he ran in 2020, or the rural areas looking like 2022? Because what doomed the Republicans in 2022 was, yes, suburban normies who were voting on pro-choice, but also the rural Republican areas were voting more pro-choice than they were expected to. The Republicans are supposed to win these rural counties out in, Ohio, or even in like non-swing states, even a state like Kentucky, which is not a swing state. If you look, rural Kentucky, that's about as red as it's supposed to be, right? The Republicans supposed to win there 75-25. The Republicans were winning those districts, but they were winning it 65-35, 60-40, right? If you're not running up those margins there, that adds up. And so one of the things we're going to look for first, one of the key signs is Trump running up margins in the rural areas the way he did when he ran for president, or do those rural areas look more like they did in the midterms? That's going to be a major, major factor, because those rural areas are not coming in as bright red as they should, and that's giving Democrats the boost that they need, to the point where a large turnout in a big city tips it over 50%.
Yeah, so I think Nate Silver calls that the knocked up in the back of a Dairy Queen vote.
Yeah, right, exactly.
They're going overwhelmingly Democrat.
Right. If you could keep the Republicans' margins in check out in the rural areas, that gives you the chance to catch them in the cities. And so we're going to find that. That'll be one of the first pieces of information that'll be, I think, very important. Cool Blue, thanks for the $4.99. 6 weeks out, I sense a 2024 Kamala map with Biden's 2020 map and a pickup of North Carolina, a Democrat hold for the Senate, and a Democrat pickup for the U.S. House. Interesting, man. So your prediction has really flipped because you were saying that the Republicans were going to win the trifecta a few months ago. So you're saying that Kamala doesn't lose any of the swing states to Trump, that she actually gains North Carolina. Cool Blue now, our Steve Kornacki here is predicting that Kamala will not only sweep the swing states that Biden won, but that she's actually going to add North Carolina. That is a bold prediction.
That is a bold move, Cotton. Let's see if it works out for you.
Yeah. That is the kind of prediction that a guy with the screen name Cool Blue 71 could make. But people who show their face on YouTube probably are not going to go that far out on a limb. I tease you, Cool Blue. You know we love you. Here, I'm going to give you a heart. That's how much we love you. I kid. Pete Sweet, thanks for the $10. Independent undecided who decide to vote for Trump will show up. Independent undecided who are never Trumpers will not be inspired by Kamala to show up. Rerun of Hillary collapse 2016. Possible. I don't think likely, though. And again, this is just gut. You know, there's no really point arguing with it. I mean, it's what my gut says. In my head, I know mathematically the numbers are on Trump's side. So I have a mixed prediction.
Give me space to promote my tour.
Oh, yeah.
Tour.
Do you have that? Do you have it ready?
Yeah, I can screen share it.
All right, let's screen share it. Russell's tour tickets are still on sale, everybody. Go ahead.
Okay, so Saturday night is running out fast. Friday night, we have more, but that's selling too. So we have 22 tickets left for Friday. And I think we have 11 tickets left for Saturday. So this is my Weird New York tour, which back in my tour guide days, I created basically as a way to offer something for Halloween without bullshitting people about ghosts. So I decided to get in on conspiracy and weirdness and murders.
So JD Vance guide it with you.
We should. He can bring a dozen donuts. Yeah. So it's going to be on the 25th and the 26th at 7:00. I take you to the site of a very famous weather underground bombing of a townhouse in Greenwich Village. That house still looks different from all the others because of the way they rebuilt it. I will take you to where G.G. Allen performed at NYU. That's a fun, if rather scatological story. I will take you to where the CIA ran an outpost of what they called Operation Midnight Climax, part of their MK Ultra experiments, where there's a building there where they had a safe house with two-way mirrors set up, where they would lure people back to the apartment and dose them and question them and film the results. So Weird New York, Greenwich Village edition, Friday and Saturday, 25th and 26th, 7:00. I will drop a link in the chat. But tickets are going fast.
All righty. Very cool. That's dudissidents.com/tour. That's where you can go and get those tickets to join Russell. And if you sign up as a member, local Substack or Patreon, we're going to live stream night 2 of that tour. The Saturday night tour will be live streamed to our members. Eric Rousseau. Fuck AI, fuck the Empire Matrix. I'm taking the red pill. Thank you, Eric Rousseau. Appreciate that very much. Okay, this was a piece of video that Russ found online with Steve Doocy versus Karine Jean-Pierre talking about the rhetoric of the campaign in the wake of the second attempt on Donald Trump's life. So let's take a look at this.
Somebody allegedly tried to kill Donald Trump again. And you're here at the podium in the White House briefing room calling him a threat. How many more assassination attempts on Donald Trump until the president and the vice president and you pick a different word to describe Trump other than threat?
Peter, if anything from this administration, I actually completely disagree with the premise of your question, the question that you're asking. It is also incredibly dangerous in the way that you're asking it because American people are watching.
This is the White House press secretary version of fuck me, no fuck you. That's a polite way of saying that. Hey, I was watching Jimmy's stream last night.
I'm a dangerous kook. No, you're a dangerous kook.
Yeah, fuck me, no fuck you. I was watching Jimmy's stream last night. Somebody gave a funny super chat about this. Why is she dressed like Lloyd from Dumb and Dumber? Remember at the end of Dumb and Dumber when they go to the ball and he wears that bright orange suit?
Yeah.
It's the same thing.
Or the Riddler.
And to say that?
That's right. Yeah, the Riddler.
To say that from an administration who has consistently condemned political violence, from an administration where the president called the former president and was thankful, grateful that he was okay, from an administration who has called out January 6th, called out the attack of Paul Pelosi, called out and said we need to lower the temperature after the Butler incident, and now for you to make that kind of comment in your question, because your question involved a comment and a statement. And, it is, that is also incredibly dangerous.
Everything's dangerous. Everything's a threat to the republic. Everything is a danger to our safety. Yes, when you continuously invoke the idea in a country, whether it's true or not, where people are very invested in the idea that we are a democracy, when you continuously tell people that if this man is elected, it is going to be not only the end of democracy, it's going to be the beginning of a Nazi-type fascist regime oriented around this Project 2025. Yeah, man, you are telling certain people who are so inclined, well, what if you could go back in time and stop Hitler? The classic formulation. And yeah, of course that's going to happen. So this is just a duck and a dodge. Yes, they don't quite as clearly call for violence, but when you say that if this person is elected, it's the end of our system of government, it's the end of our way of life, you're tacitly calling for violence.
I mean, what I would say is that, in 2016, I think the major mistake that the Hillary campaign made was that they didn't just normalize Trump, right? They viewed Trump as some existential threat when really, if you could just normalize him and run against him based on what he stands for, what he wants to do as president. The problem is the Democrats in this cycle, they really can't do that because Kamala is not running on any policy and she's part of an incumbent administration with a horrible record. So they feel probably pigeonholed in the sense that the only thing we could do is create this image of Trump as an existential threat. Now, I will also say Donald Trump has not helped himself. He has only hurt himself in opening himself up to that. So some of the comments around this Springfield, Ohio case and around the issue of illegal immigration, these very visceral comments about raping our girls and stuff like that. I mean, that is inflammatory rhetoric in and of itself. So he has not helped himself. But for her to just turn that on the questioner and say, no, actually, you asking us to moderate is dangerous. I mean, come on, that is below her pay grade. She's supposed to do a better job than that. What she could say is, yeah, we should moderate our rhetoric. Donald Trump should moderate his rhetoric too, because if Donald Trump's going to come out here and create the specter in people's minds of Haitian migrants stealing their dog and barbecuing it, or raping our townspeople, which is what he said about a week ago in Tucson, Arizona, well, then you're kind of forcing our hand to at least call out that what this guy's saying is not normal, and that it is
rape, ass rape.
Yeah, well, yeah, yes, without being too graphic, yes. Like she could have said that. Hey, we would appreciate if Donald Trump would stop making these extreme comments, because when you do that, you're kind of leaving us no choice but to call out the fact that this is fascistic rhetoric on his part, and it is. We got into that with Kim Iverson last night. I mean, what are you supposed to do? You're supposed to not call that out in the heat of a campaign season? So I sympathize with that. But this was a dodge. This was just turning it on him. oh, you're asking us to moderate? That's extremely dangerous. Why? I mean, it's nonsense. In and of itself, that is a non-answer, a nonsensical answer.
Well, because what you're talking about is very specific to this particular moment and news cycle, but more broadly since 2016.
Yes.
They have been characterizing Donald Trump as an existential threat to the republic. So the argument that they have built an environment where in a country of, where are we at now? 350 million, 380 million. I'm not clear. But a lot of people, yeah, man, when you throw out that kind of rhetoric, some of them are going to think that it is on them to save the republic. Some people are going to take it that way. So yes, Trump doesn't help himself with that kind of rhetoric, but this long predates the Haitian barbecue accusations.
Good point, Charles. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that is a good point, and that's something that I didn't think of. But you're right. Like the fact that this has been their attack on Trump for 8 years, which transcends the specifics of any particular news cycle. Whereas Trump has moments where he definitely throws gas on a fire instead of cooling it off, and this is one of those moments. But of course, these sort of frenzies are not whipped up overnight. When the essence of your argument against someone is that they are a unique evil that must be stopped at all costs. Yes, that is a good point. Yeah.
Yep.
I buy that.
I mean, they explicitly have dropped, I don't know how many articles comparing him to Hitler.
Oh yeah. Well, the photo of the New Republic the other week, what was it, a month or two ago? Their one of their recent issues was, a mock-up of him as Hitler. Literally.
Oh, I didn't even see that. Yeah. So okay, can you honestly say you're not creating an environment that makes assassination attempts on this man likely?
Right, exactly. I mean, that reflects a certain recklessness where, if Fox News were printing on the cover of their, whatever publication or putting on the homepage of their website, Joe Biden as Hitler or Stalin or whatever they think he is. There's no doubt that the Democrat side would take that as, if not legally incitement, in essence, an incitement of sorts.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Here we go. Let's go to some Rumble rants here. Please take this one. You got it. Thanks for the $1. Excuse me. If Trump tried to implement censorship, the libs and Dems would go nuclear. Same censorship under Harris would be necessary to keep us all safe, and people will believe it. Thank you. Eric Rousseau, maybe we should have a classical education in this country which teaches critical thinking throughout. It's an idea. Thanks, Eric Rousseau. Appreciate that. The Peopled Infinite. Sorry. There we go. LOL, didn't expect a dodgeball reference from you, Russell. Full of surprises. Glad I made it for the morning show. Fresh off the night shift. Love you, dudes. Keep it up. Thank you, Peopled Infinite.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. Okay. Let's go here. John Pierre's a DEI Chucky doll. Who said that? What was the joke? Jimmy read a joke last night. That was funny. I forget what it was. It was a long one, and Kurt laughed at it a lot. And it was, I forget what it was. I'm gonna have to watch another replay about her. Referring to the press secretary, I'm so tired of her telling me Haitians aren't eating cats when she's Haitian and going home and eats pussy every night. Bada bing, bada boom. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Okay. Christos says, hey, Russ, hey, Keaton for $2. Thank you. Over on YouTube. Cool Blue, who wins Erie and Northampton counties, carries Pennsylvania. All right. Thank you, Cool Blue, for that. Appreciate that. Choosy Heretics, thank you for the $2. Attaboys, let's go. And Choosy Heretics again for $2. Meet me for Thai food in Knights Malta occupation. Thank you, Choosy Heretics. Appreciate that. Okay, we're going to keep on plugging along here. All right, folks, I'm going to let Russell set this one up because I saw this one before he did. But, Russell just did a review of Matt Walsh's Am I Racist? And yeah, look, it's irresponsible of Matt Walsh to go around providing spoilers for the movie on the press tour. You don't want to provide a spoiler on the press tour, but he goes a ways towards answering that question and giving away the ending in this piece here. So go ahead.
He really does. This was really interesting because Matt Walsh, hey, he is a very, very smart guy. I've seen him in debates about things that he actually has taken the time to really dig into, and he acquits himself admirably. This is part of, I think, what distinguishes a lot of people in the modern day conservative movement in America. Their willful ignorance of broader systemic forces that impact people's lives. They absolutely refuse to admit the possibility that everything is not just, bootstraps and personal initiative. They are allergic to that idea. And in keeping with that, very often they're really incurious about foreign policy. And to be fair, Americans in general, you do see this on the left, particularly the social democrat left. Bernie was kind of an avatar of this incuriosity, disinterest in addressing foreign policy and how it relates to our domestic policy. We're seeing it very clearly in some of the policing and censorship tactics in our country. Chris Hedges will often point this out. What they do to people abroad, eventually they're going to do to their domestic population. So if you want to know one reason you should take interest in that, it's the way it's coming home to roost now. So Ryan Grimm actually confronts him, and it becomes clear very quickly that a lot of things he's talking about, he has no idea what the realities are.
Yeah, so basically, Ryan Grimm starts this line of inquiry, which is not featured in the video. Well, what do you think about the whole rhetoric around the Haitian migrants? Would you say that's racist?
Right.
And of course, Matt Walsh, no.
He goes right to bootstraps, right to take responsibility for your country, right to they're to blame.
Right. Well, first he says, we don't want America to look more like Haiti. That's where this picks up here. So should we go to the video? I think that catches us up.
Yep.
Okay.
Nobody thinks that it will benefit America to become more like Haiti. Nobody thinks that. Or I would challenge anyone, if they do think that, to explain how that's the case. Like, in what way could this country be improved by making it more like Haiti? When you look at Haiti, what part of Haiti are you saying to yourself, we need more of that?
Beaches.
Okay, so I just
you would leave.
Yeah, I just want to point this out. I just want to stop right here because this is the crux of what you get from conservatives. They will tell you that they're not racist, but in the end, if you remove foreign policy as a factor in different outcomes for different nations, what conclusion could you possibly be drawing?
Exactly.
Other than that there's something wrong with these people inherently.
Exactly.
That is the way. They won't admit it, but at core, they believe that non-Europeans are inferior. We saw it, not to rip open a scab, but that was something we looked at with the infamous Tucker Darryl Cooper interview, where he says, as Europeans, we really don't like disorder. It's that same mentality. You ever hear of Japan? I mean, they're pretty known for their orderliness. They see these countries, brown countries, black countries, they see them as inferior. They see them as inherently inferior. Because what else could they be if you don't have a foreign policy vision?
When he says we don't want this country to be more like Haiti, and if we let Haitians into the country, then this country will be more like Haiti. What is assumed in that formulation is that Haiti is in the shape Haiti is in because of Haitians. Actually, Haiti is in the shape that Haiti is in because of Americans, because of America, because of what America has done to Haiti as punishment for having a successful slave revolt. So it is not the fault of the Haitian people that their country is in the state that it's in. It's actually quite the fault of us. And that's what Ryan Grimm educates him about over the next couple minutes, and you could see he needs education. He has no idea what he's talking about. The
no
more
idea
this
what
goes
he's
on, the
talking
more
about.
you could see he has absolutely no clue about any of this history. Should we play?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, we have more beaches than them too, right? Don't we?
Right.
We're a much bigger country.
We don't want a marine invasion and occupation of the United States that constantly decapitates governments and takes the money out of the country and saddles us with
we don't want the Clintons
debt
either.
from a revolution. Yeah.
Right. Although I don't. So you're saying that
we wouldn't want to be like basically a colony that the entire West spends 200 years punishing after the Haitian Revolution.
I get that. I understand that, but also at a certain
we
point,
wouldn't want that. No, yes.
We wouldn't want that, but I would also say that that's not entirely why Haiti's in the position that it's in. I mean, at a certain point, as a country, you have to stand on your own 2 feet and take care of yourself. And
but at what point is that? They elect Aristide and we overthrow Aristide, and they elect Jovenel Moïse. Jovenel Moïse has assassinated a bunch of people with American connections, and then we install in 2021, like the United States installed the prime minister that we just ousted. Like, so we could say, okay, yeah, you got to get over the 200 years ago, but like we're still doing it.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm not in favor of. I'm very non-interventionist in my policies, so I'm not in favor of most of the things that we're doing in other countries.
We just made the new government in Haiti in a hotel room in Jamaica, and then we insisted that whatever government we made in Jamaica had to allow Kenyan troops to come in under the flag of the UN in order to go to war with the gangs.
Yeah, I'm not interested in. If it were up to me, I'm not interested in doing anything in Haiti. Like let Haiti be Haiti and take care of them. That's sort of my whole point here. Let them take care of themselves and their own problems. I'm also not saying that there's like never a scenario where we would let someone from Haiti into the country. But it doesn't have to just be about Haiti. But when you're throwing open the gates and just inviting anyone, in particular,
I guess
third world.
I guess your assumption there was that it is Haitian people that are creating the conditions on Haiti, and that if the Haitian people come to Springfield, they will recreate the conditions
but I don't think you
Haiti in Springfield. Whereas what I'm saying is that it's actually the U.S. that has largely.
Yeah, they have created the conditions in Haiti more than the Haitian people. That's the whole point. And he gave the same dodge that like the new atheists would give. Well, not Hitchens. Hitchens was a full-blown unapologetic neocon. But like Sam Harris would say when he's going on his Western chauvinist, anti-Islam rant, he would put it in there as a caveat. Now, I'm not dismissing the impact of the United States misadventures in that region. It's just I'm going to say that for 10 seconds, and then I'm going to go on a 15-minute monologue about how the state of the Muslim world is only the result of their way of life and their point of view, right? And it turns out the people who are more nuanced about this are people like us. I do not dismiss the influence of the like illiberalism of like theocratic doctrine. Sure, that's a factor, but geopolitically, the number one influence is the terrestrial influence, not the philosophical influence. We actually exert physical and often violent pressure on these societies and orient them in a certain way. If you're going to have a conversation about racism, which is inevitably a litigation of people and their cultures and their way of life, if you don't know what you're talking about, the way Matt Walsh clearly did not in that example, and I would argue Sam Harris has a very superficial understanding of like the geopolitics of it all, then yeah, you're going to be exposed as someone who, just makes knee-jerk assumptions about people. And that is a form of racism. Like, I'm sorry, like I got into this a little bit when we reviewed the movie. Like the fact that you as a suburban white boy don't harbor conscious hatred of a group, that does not automatically mean that your attitudes and behaviors toward these groups and the way that the system coalesces to treat certain groups does not represent what can be fairly called racism. And it's clear, I mean, he just has no understanding of that.
Yeah. In terms of Islam, if you've actually read the Bible, it's pretty illiberal in and of itself. The difference is European society was allowed to evolve secularism. When Muslim society began to have a similar evolution, we whacked out their leaders because we did not want them to have democracies in that region that would then vote to control their own resources. We whacked them out. We installed theocratic regimes, monarchies, autocrats like the Shah. They wound up this way because of us. It is not inherent in Islam. Yeah, there are things in Islam that are extremely illiberal. Read the Bible. No more illiberal than the Bible. The Bible is like something the Marquis de Sade might have written if he had been around 2,000 years ago. It's full of weird sex and absolutely horrific violence and a lot of crazy premises. The Bible tells you when you are menstruating that you need to go out of town for 7 days and dig a hole and then come back and sacrifice some doves. So I don't think there's anything in the Quran that's crazier than what's in the Bible. It's not inherent to what's in the Quran that the society evolved in that direction. It is our intervention, which again, these people who present themselves, Matt Walsh, I don't know if I could say presents himself as a public intellectual. He's more of a gadfly. The IDW people are really a fucking joke. I mean, it's incredible that you would present yourself as an intellectual and say things that are as fundamentally ignorant and ahistorical as they do on a regular basis. In terms of Matt Walsh, this interview does go on, and you're right. His interpretation of what systemic racism means is racism that's encoded in law. And he does not allow for any other form or manifestation. And Ryan Grimm rightly says, okay, so post Jim Crow, you get rid of these laws, but all of the players, all of the institutions are still in place that enforced that. You still have black people in these poor neighborhoods that had been created by Jim Crow, to which he responds, well, that's really class. Now, I agree that there is a class element to some of this, but you can't say entirely because, people will say Will Smith. Okay, well, people are usually not famous like Will Smith. A rich black guy walking down the street, driving down the road is much more likely to get pulled over. That is is it in the law? It doesn't need to be. It doesn't need to be. That's a bias in society. Now, the film I recommended because I felt like the film really very specifically focused on the DEI grift, which that is something they all agree on that panel, that this is a grift. It's not helping anything, but it's stuffing a lot of money in these people's pockets. And Ryan Grimm also points out, which is a big part of my critique of it, and any person who's fairly evaluating it, I think. These corporations hire these DEI consultancies as a legal shield for themselves. That's why they don't care if it works or not.
Right.
They're just checking a box so they could say, what do you mean you're suing us for discrimination? We brought in Robin DiAngelo.
We trained you.
That's what it's there for. Yep. That's what it's there for. And they know that, and they are getting very rich, getting companies to pay them to do these workshops that don't do anything to ameliorate racism. So the film is basically about that, and it is very successful at setting that up and skewering it. As Matt Walsh demonstrates in this interview, like most conservatives, he does not really admit any explanation for racism that's not owed to something else and that does not also impact white people. Yes, there is classism. There is classism. And I do agree that often things that are attributed to racism have to do with class as well. But there is an extra dimension. There is an extra dimension. I've often spoken about, I grew up on welfare. I have experienced some of the class discrimination that you experience when you grow up that way. But I also got away with a lot of shit because I wasn't black. I don't have a record because I'm not black. There is no doubt in my mind when I broke into a corporation building and got arrested when I was 16, I got a light sentence because I was white. So there is an extra dimension that somebody like Walsh, that is really what makes him a conservative, right? That's what makes his arguments conservative. It's unfortunate because I don't feel there can't be a kind of honest conservatism that acknowledges a more nuanced view. But that's not the dominant strain in American society. The dominant strain in America, owing partly to our history, is, well, grab those bootstraps.
Right. Yep. Indeed. All right, let's have a word from the Virginia Boys Kitchen's wonderful walnut wood cutting board, shall we?
Sure.
All right.
Who doesn't like a good cutting board?
Nothing like a good cutting board. Let's dive into something that's really exciting. So as you know, we're all about quality, durability, and supporting American-made products here. So today, we've got something special to share with you that not only aligns with your Made in America values, but also helps you in the kitchen. I'm talking about premium 100% American-made wood cutting boards. That's right. These beauties are crafted right here in the USA, ensuring you get top-notch quality while supporting local craftsmanship. So if you like to cook a great steak or just cook frequently, you know how crucial a good cutting board is. But here's the thing. Plastic cutting boards can be a real pain. They're prone to scratches, they harbor bacteria, and let's be honest, they just don't have that classic solid feel. Now imagine upgrading to a stunning wood cutting board. It's not just about looks, though these boards do look fantastic. Wood is naturally more hygienic, it's gentler on your knives, and ages beautifully over time. Plus, there's something undeniably satisfying about the way a wooden board feels and performs. And here's the best part. For our Rumble viewers, you get an exclusive offer. That's Rumble20 coupon code, Rumble20. Use that at checkout to save 20% on your first cutting board. It's a great way to make the switch from those old harmful plastic boards to something truly special and made right here in the USA. So that's Virginia Boys Kitchens. Go to virginiaboyskitchens.com and use Rumble20 for 20% off your wood cutting board. All right, beautiful.
All right.
I like selling cutting boards.
Will they send us those?
Yeah, they got to send me
we were
those.
supposed to get a care package.
Yeah, I'm supposed to get a care package.
I want one of those.
I want one of those cutting boards. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm pretty well stocked on cutting boards at the moment. I have 3, but I'm sure this one will be better than at least one of the ones that I have. So I will replace that. All right, folks. Let's move right along. We got some more super chats and Rumble rants. Christian Fortin, thanks for the $5 Canadian. We in Senegal are going through Olympic blues. Please let us hear once again the number of the beast for old time's sake. Should we play it for old time's sake? I mean, should we? I don't know. We haven't done it in a while.
How could you turn down a request like that?
That's true. Let's do it.
The original flavor.
All right.
There you go.
Hope that brightened your day, Christian. Thank you. Debs Mo, thanks for the $10 super sticker. Appreciate that. RBGH Fam, thanks for the $5. The problem I have with people like Ryan is he's anti-imperialism but pro-fiat currency, which is the very apparatus used to create the imperialism and the cronyism. Thank you for that. The Yuppies, thanks for the $5. If you watch Whitney Webb's appearance on Jimmy's show, she says in another Trump or Kamala Harris administration, surveillance might get a little worse too. Yeah, we're going to try to get her on the show soon. That's our next project.
Yeah, that's I'm on a mission to get Whitney Webb on because a lot of the things I'm starting to research. I just ordered techno-feudalism. She kind of specializes in these areas. So I think it would be a really interesting conversation to explore this creepy Silicon Valley post-human kind of quasi-religion that is shaping up over there.
Yes, that would be a great interview. Hopefully we could put that together. Okay, folks, so this is the big story of the day. We're talking about the Israeli pager attacks in Lebanon. So obviously on Tuesday, a series of pagers were detonated in Lebanon. which Israel calls an attack on Hezbollah. Of course, there was just an obscene amount of collateral damage, many civilians harmed, killed, and injured. And they stepped up those attacks yesterday. So Lebanon reels as more devices explode and casualties rise. New explosions linked to electronic devices killed at least 20 people and injured more than 450 across Lebanon on Wednesday, a day after 12 people were killed and thousands wounded by exploding pagers used by members of the militant group Hezbollah in a suspected Israeli attack. The source of Wednesday's explosions was not immediately clear. The state news agency said some of the explosions occurred in a brand of two-way radio. At least one of the explosions occurred at a funeral in Beirut's southern suburbs held by Hezbollah for people who were killed in Tuesday's blast. So they killed people at the funeral for the first group of people who were killed. Crowds had begun gathering for the funerals when a blast sent people running. Anyone who has a device, take out the battery now, security members yelled to mourners. Turn off your phone, switch it to airplane mode, young men in black T-shirts and khakis shouted. Really a dystopian story. Bystanders at the funeral said a handheld radio exploded in someone's hand at the edge of the crowd. Ambulances pushed through streets filled with men and women in black who were waving flags. The explosions on consecutive days and across the country were the latest cruel trial for Lebanon, reeling from years of economic collapse, political malaise, and 11 months of conflict between Hezbollah and Israel. The first wave on Tuesday overwhelmed hospitals with a flood of maimed patients in what was seen as a broad and terrifying assault on the country and not just a narrow attack on Hezbollah's cadres. The group, which also is a political party, runs social and charitable institutions, hospitals, museums, and construction companies, forming one of Lebanon's many fast patronage networks. Those carrying the pagers that exploded included fighters, but also doctors and other civilian workers, the blasts harming some of the people, such as family members or bystanders in shops they interacted with. The shock of Tuesday's detonations in the middle of the afternoon, shortly after schools had been let out, recalled for many the aftermath of a deadly port explosion in 2020 that killed more than 200 people and injured thousands. Rescue workers who toiled all day Tuesday ferrying the injured were forced back to work Wednesday after the new explosions. We're focused on the injured and putting out fires. Walid Hashash, a paramedic, with Lebanon's civil defense, said Wednesday evening. He was thrown into service a day earlier when a pager injured someone outside a hospital where he was visiting a colleague. As they tended to the injured person, someone on a moped arrived with another wounded person. Then more people started to show up. We didn't know what was happening, he said. The civil defense released a dizzying tally of incidents it had responded to Wednesday, saying they stemmed from explosions in wireless devices and fingerprint analysis devices. 60 homes and shops were affected in the southern Nabatea province, I hope I said that right, and houses, homes, shops, and vehicles were damaged or set on fire by explosions in northern Lebanon, the eastern Bekaa province, and Beirut's southern suburbs. At least 12 people were killed, and as many as 2,800 were injured Tuesday when the pager simultaneously detonated around 3:30 p.m., Lebanese Health Minister Firas Abiad said in a news conference on Wednesday. Israel's military, which often does not announce its operations abroad, declined to comment on whether it was responsible. Experts said the attack appeared to be a sophisticated and pre-planned operation relying on the placement of explosives in the devices sometime before Hezbollah distributed them. The attack came as Israel signaled increased attention to its border with Lebanon. Officials said this week that military action against Hezbollah was needed to allow thousands of northern residents to return home, in a sign that Israel was shifting its focus from the war against Hamas in Gaza. So this looks like another bait for World War III, which is nothing new. Yeah. The deluge of patients at medical centers after Tuesday's explosions was a chilling preview of what Lebanon could face during a war. Medical personnel performed 460 surgeries, including on people with injuries to their faces, eyes, and fingers, and 300 people remained in critical condition, Abiad said Wednesday. Those killed Tuesday included an 8-year-old girl and an 11-year-old boy. Iran's ambassador to Lebanon was among those injured, the state-run news agency said. Foreign governments warned that the attack could be a prelude to an escalation in Israel's hair-trigger confrontation with Hezbollah. The British government's Foreign Commonwealth and Development Office said in a statement that the deaths of civilians in the explosions were deeply distressing and urged calm heads and de-escalation. Okay, so here is a reporter asking a Pentagon official, hey, is this a war crime? Because it kind of seems like just detonating devices, in civilian areas with no regard whatsoever for civilian casualties. That seems like a war crime. And I would add, this seems like terrorism. I mean, if this happened in America, we would call this a terrorist attack.
Of course it would.
Yeah, absolutely. So here's this.
There's no way to target people that way. You don't know who's holding the pager, who's going to be near it. By definition, that's a terrorist attack.
Absolutely. 100%.
Ethically speaking, as a military officer, is this a capability that falls within the ethical conduct of a war?
I'm not a lawyer. I'm not, again, going to do a spot analysis on something that we've seen in press reports. I just don't have any information to provide on that. Sorry.
I'm not a lawyer. Hey, neither am I. Neither am I. It's pretty cut and dry, I would say. But here's the New York Post. Beep, beep, boom. Today cover thousands of Hezbollah fighters injured in Lebanon when their new pagers all simultaneously explode, causing horrifying wounds to their groins and hands. Now, that is essentially a lie. You have no idea how many of these were fighters, how many of these were militants, and how many of these were civilians. No idea whatsoever. That's just an outright lie that this was targeted specifically to combatants and that was all the damage. I mean, that's just absolute nonsense. But here is a semi-literate pizza boy who, for some reason, we are supposed to take an interest in what he has to say. Dave Portnoy, the Barstool Sports guy. I can't wait to watch when this becomes a spy movie. This is the craziest counterterrorism plot I've ever heard of. So just an absolute utter moron, but a moron with a big following. So big a following that he actually caught the eye of the CEO of Twitter, Linda Yaccarino, who comments, blast. So she endorses this violence here. Linda Yaccarino, who I tweeted, was like, if Hal from 2001 were an AI Yenta from Bethpage, Long Island, it would be Linda Yaccarino. So another absolute idiot with apparently a certain taste for terrorism, because that's what this is. And that this is so just haphazardly and cavalierly celebrated in this country is just absolutely despicable. So this is a screenshot. We're obviously not going to show the video of the attack, but this is a screenshot of a clip that went viral right before the attack in a food market. Again, are these combatants shopping for vegetables in the store? You have no way of saying that. That's just an obscene thing to say. But Sebastian Gorka says, mess with the bull, you're going to get the horns. And Representative Brian Mast, this is a member of Congress here, says that's what I call sending a message in response to this. Just utterly despicable. Here's Eli Lake. Can't talk right now. My pager's blowing up. They think it's very, very funny. Really, really funny that this happened. Really funny.
Well, his code name on this show is the Penguin.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. But here's what they're laughing it up about. Here's what Dave Portnoy, the pizza boy,
recently
was very impressed by.
Maybe we'll get a chance. He wrote an op-ed claiming, well, you know, the activists in the 60s were terrorists too. And he's talking about the Weather Underground by comparison to today's pro-Palestine activists.
Right. Yeah. No, just a real piece of garbage there. So you have the pizza boy, very impressed with this operation. You have the CEO of Twitter, very impressed with this operation. You have Eli Lake, among others, laughing it up, yucking it up, gloating at this. This is what they are gloating about. Funeral held for 9-year-old girl killed in Lebanon pager explosions. I use this headline from the Huffington Post because it has her photo there. But the New York Times did a more detailed write-up on the funeral, so I want you to just pay this some mind here. Fatima, the girl's name was Fatima Abdullah, was in the kitchen on Tuesday when a pager on the table began to beep, her aunt said. She picked up the device to bring it to her father and was holding it when it exploded, mangling her face and leaving the room covered in blood, she said. Fatima was trying to take courses in English, Miss Moussaoui said. She loved English. Her funeral was held in Lebanon's Bekaa Valley, a rural area on the border with Syria that is known as a deep well of support for Hezbollah. Many of the injuries on Tuesday occurred in the Bekaa Valley, in southern Lebanon, and in the southern suburbs of Beirut, the capital, all known as Hezbollah stronghold. So, once again, as Russell said, you have no idea who's going to receive this beep here. This was a young girl who picks up the pager, goes to hand it to her dad, and boom, blows her face off. Very funny. Very, very funny stuff,
hilarious.
According to Eli Lake, according to Michael Rappaport, which we're going to see in a minute. David Frum calls this the most precisely targeted anti-terrorist operation in the history of the world. Really? 2,800 injured? What, on what basis do you say that? Do you have any evidence whatsoever to support that? Here's Michael Rappaport. Thinks this is really, really funny. Here he is.
Beep, beep. Beep, beep. Beep, beep.
This guy is anti-Semitism Omicron.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, just what absolute sickos, how absolutely vile and psychotic to be out here just celebrating, laughing it up at what is terrorism. That is terrorism. There is no other word for that.
Well, remember, Jews like Rappaport, like Frum, are brainwashed from birth, really, to see the Muslim world as the successors to the Nazis. So, yeah, I mean, to them, this is all. What was the Tarantino movie?
Inglourious Bastards.
Yeah, it's all Inglourious Bastards, right? It's the Jews fighting back against these anti-Semites. They have absolutely no knowledge of history at all of that region at all. They have a completely distorted understanding. A lot of them think the land was empty before they came, and the Arabs moved people in there to make the Jews look bad. Like, they have no fucking idea what the actual history is. Honestly, I'm not sure they would care if they did, but most of them don't. For most of them, these are videos of Nazis having their beepers blown up in the middle of the day. That is what they see when they see this. In all wars, there's a necessity of dehumanizing the enemy in order to get people to do these things to other people. What you see with Zionists is that on steroids. Their enemies are the greatest evil the world has ever known. They are a continuation of this great evil. And we'll talk about this a little more with the Richie Torres thing. But this is a great example of how Israel is not protecting Jews from anti-Semitism. It is the greatest purveyor of anti-Semitism in the world, because most people are not Zionists, in spite of the tremendous control Zionists have over media narratives. Most people can see through this. Most people, and they think, if you think Jews are all Zionists and you see this sick piece of garbage laughing about this, well, what are you going to think about Jews if you think Jews are Zionists by definition?
Yeah, no, I mean, it like, yes, I mean, if you insist that to be a Zionist, that to be Jewish is to be a Zionist, is to support this kind of violence, then yes, of course, that's going to stoke anti-Semitism. Absolutely. And then when that happens, you see certain measures taken to squash anti-Semitism, which I would reject and this gets a little bit into the next segment, I would reject that there is a significant strain of anti-Semitism amongst the actual like Free Palestine movement. You have certain characters who latch on to that as a means to validate their anti-Semitism. But we've run into those types on Twitter and, in our comment section. I haven't seen any of those types at the Free Palestine rallies, at the protests
That
in
is not
Chicago.
been
Did you
my
see any of those
experience
characters
at all.
there?
Not
You
at
were
all.
around thousands of them.
Not at all.
Yeah.
Not at all.
Yeah.
Well, because these people don't leave their mom's basements.
Right. Exactly.
They're
Right.
terminally online freaks.
Right.
But we will talk about that in the next segment, how the kind of control that clearly AIPAC and its affiliates and similar organizations have over the government are giving new life and mainstreaming a lot of ideas that had been confined to the fringes of white supremacist organizations.
Yes. Yep, indeed. Okay. We are going to move on here. Like I said, we have a couple more segments to do on the day. I did want to put this piece up on the screen because we got a locals super chat or Rumble rant, whatever you call those. What would you call those? A locals something. But that's for $50. So thank you.
Thank you.
L Mackey.
Getting off to a good start with the locals.
Yeah, indeed. Why isn't it showing it on the screen? It should be showing it on the screen, but it's not. LJ Mackey.
So we're seeing Michael later. So
yeah, I will let him know that did not appear on the screen as it should. But thank you for the $50. Appreciate that very much. Cowbell to you, LJ McKay. Thank you. Appreciate that. Very kind of you. Okay. Kuznetsky Bassane, thanks for the $4.99. Pentagon press officer, I am not a human, so I can't comment. Yes, thank you. Musically Assured Destruction, thanks for the $4.99. I may be a MAGA, but I always learn something new from watching you guys, even if I don't agree 100%. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am.
That means a lot. Okay, we're going to go here. Agitas, this Trump derangement syndrome is the definition of stochastic violence, a type of terrorism where public demonization of a person group leads to a statistically probable yet individually unpredictable violence. I'm assuming is the last part. Yeah, I mean, look, I wouldn't go as far as to say that, but I would say that over a prolonged period of time, you're definitely creating an environment out of which that could arise. Maybe there's a bit of hair splitting semantically, but I take your point. I think it's a fair one in general. Gray Raven, thanks for the $1. To paraphrase Super Hans from Peep Show, Dems contributed to engendering a vibe out of which emerged the Trump hatred. There you go. Thank you, Gray Raven. Appreciate that very much. Let's see. Penny Arcos, thanks for the donation. Didn't U.S. corporations and doctors support Hitler? Don't Blinken and Trudeau support Ukrainian Nazis? What about Operation Paperclip? Sure. Okay. Let's go. Yes. Can you guys hear a dog shrieking in the background?
Now that you said it, yeah.
Yeah.
It got loud now.
What a maniac. She's so crazy. She's howling. She's howling because Amanda went to pick up the kids from the bus stop and she doesn't think I'm home. When she's home alone and she's not in her crate, she goes crazy. Let me step out there for a second so she knows I'm here. I'll be right back. Here, I will. I'll give you a few Rumble rants to read while I'm going.
How do I read them? I don't even remember how to find that.
You go to banners, and then you could just put them on the screen.
I see.
So right there.
Okay.
So
right.
Conda Strike is that one. I'll be right back.
Where?
Conda Strike. Here, way down.
Oh, I see it. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. All right. So Israel attacked Lebanon by air just now, as Hezbollah leader Nasrallah made a speech. This is crazy. Yeah. So they're trying to. Thank you, Conda Strike, for the $2. They're trying to get World War III going. So we have two client states, although you could fairly ask who's the client state in regards to Israel, trying to get us into World War III. They are both trying to incite an incident, Ukraine by trying to get permission to hit Moscow with long-range weapons, and Israel by attacking Lebanon. They're trying to get the United States to commit forces to the region and get World War III going. Now, I am not kidding. I've said this on the show. I haven't booked any travel for next year, even though I want to go to China, because I think the chances we're in World War III before the spring are decent. The chances are decent that something that would be defined by any fair definition as World War III, where you got a Middle Eastern front, you got a European front, is going to be going by then. I hope I'm wrong. But I hope you all got in your summer vacations. E.F. Husseau, wasn't Yacarino a sweat hog? Oh my God, Keaton didn't even get that. He wouldn't get that. That's a Welcome Back Kotter reference.
Oh, interesting. Okay, yeah, no, I did not.
Yes, yes. Stoop sign. Most bombs are remote detonated by pagers and phones. This was the opposite. Mossad did Operation Yakov Smirnov. Yeah, everyone with the old school references today. Although Keaton would know who Yakov Smirnov is. You know who that is, right?
What's that?
You know who Yakov Smirnov was, right?
No, I don't think I do.
He was a very popular Russian defector comedian at the end of the Cold War.
Oh no.
In Russia, when joke dies, it really dies.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah, no, I had not heard of that.
Yes, he was very popular in the 80s when around the time the Rambo movies were ginning up the Cold War.
Oh, interesting. I should look into that. That
Reagan
sounds like
era.
That'll be,
very Reagan era.
Sounds like something that will be of interest to me. Okay, cool. All right, let's keep going here. All right, folks. So Richie Torres is somewhat in the news here. This post went somewhat viral. Here's Richie Torres responding to these new anti-speech measures on college campuses throughout New York City. Here is Richie Torres voicing his support for linking charges of anti-Zionism to that of anti-Semitism.
Congressman Richie Torres, and I proudly represent New York's 15th Congressional District in the Bronx. In anticipation of the fall semester, New York University, NYU, commendably took the initiative to modernize its non-discrimination and anti-harassment policy in response to the increasingly complex and ever-evolving reality of campus anti-Semitism. The modernization of NYU's policy merits not only the attention of all university administrators, but also their emulation. Here is NYU in its own words, quote, using code words like Zionist does not eliminate the possibility that your speech violates the non-discrimination and anti-harassment policy. For many Jewish people, Zionism is part of their Jewish identity. Speech and conduct that would violate the non-discrimination and anti-harassment policy if targeting Jewish or Israeli people can also violate the non-discrimination and anti-harassment policy if directed toward Zionists, end quote.
Okay. Okay. First of all, Zionism is not a code word for anything.
No.
It is reference to a political ideology, a very specific belief, in a very specific political project. So it is not code for anything. Saying, well, a lot of Jews consider Zionism part of their identity. I mean, you could say what? A lot of Arabs consider Islam a part of their identity, right? I mean, that doesn't necessarily mean that to criticize Islam as a religion is to smear all Arabs as people. Some people do that, but you can do that without it being a personal attack that is subject to punitive action, right? So the idea that Zionism is a code, that really the anti-Semites are speaking in code. Listen, as we mentioned in the last segment, Russ and I recently, because we responded to a video in which one of the background extras from American History X was featured in a speaking role on the Tucker Carlson show, we did a few segments on that, and we encountered some actual anti-Semites. they don't speak in codes. They're not really shy. They don't really bother hiding the way they feel, right? Calling us dreidel spinners and small hats and this and that. So the idea that like there is this great mass of people who is speaking coded language to conceal their anti-Semitism by criticizing Zionism. No, Zionism is a specific political ideology subject to the same criticism that any other political ideology is subject to, and to criticize that ideology is not to smear Jews as people. And so the whole formulation that he's lauding here is absurd. It's especially absurd at institutions that are ostensibly there for free thought and open debate and open inquiry. Anything before we continue?
Yeah, I mean, Richie Torres is the biggest gaping hole in the whorehouse, and this is pretty much what you'd expect from him, which is why you should vote for our man Jose Vega.
That's right.
Or if you don't live in the district, you should go to his website and see how you can support signatures, phone calls, or donations, because he is running against this scumbag, douchebag.
That's right.
But that aside, in regards to what Keaton was just talking about, it was very enlightening to have this exchange. And I know there are some people in our audience who legitimately enjoyed some podcasts from that creator and don't understand the exception we take to it. I would once again just say, what did you know about the subject before you listened to it? Would you know if it was accurate? I'm sure it was entertaining. Entertaining does not equal accurate. But that aside, certainly there were a lot of genuine anti-Semites. And it was interesting to see what they had to say. And it reaffirmed a lot of what we've said from the beginning of this about the way this conflict reinforces anti-Semitism and has the potential to mainstream it. Because a lot of what we heard from the legit anti-Semites, not just people who enjoyed a podcast, legit anti-Semites who got into that conversation, were saying was, well, look at how much control the Jews have now. What makes you think that everything we learned about that isn't being controlled by them? What makes you think they weren't behind World War II? What makes you think they weren't controlling Churchill? What makes you think they weren't working with Hitler? What makes you think they weren't behind the Nazis? This is giving, again, these are ideas you would have heard for half a century at least from white supremacist, neo-Nazi Klansmen, these alternate theories of history that blame everything on the Jews. This conflict is to some degree mainstreaming it. It's bringing those ideas out of the meeting rooms of Stormfront and into the podcasting mainstream conversation. That is a great example in real time of exactly what we've been saying. Israel is in no way defeating anti-Semitism or protecting Jews from anti-Semitism. It is mainstreaming and legitimizing a lot of anti-Semitic ideas.
Well, I mean, once again, I would just say, though, it's important to differentiate, because what he's talking about is coded language from pro-Palestine activists, and I don't interpret it that way. The real hardcore anti-Semites will just come right at you. They don't speak in codes.
Right.
They don't disguise that.
But these people, they see how much power and control the Israel lobby and AIPAC have over people like Richie Torres. I mean, when they see things like this, when they see this bizarre uniformity of support for Israel to the degree that they're going to go so far as to clearly violate people's First Amendment right to protest. And then you have somebody who comes along and says, well, hey, you notice how you're not allowed to question the Holocaust? Well, put those things together. Well, maybe what you learned about this isn't true. It opens up space for credibility for ideas like that.
Sure. No,
maybe
I'm not
Hitler wasn't
contesting
really the bad guy.
Yeah, no, I'm not contesting that. I'm just saying he's not.
No.
He's talking about two different things. What he's trying to do is he's trying to lump in the Palestine activists on campus with that group, and that second group is a group that has glommed onto this issue.
Absolutely,
but that's not who he's talking about there.
Right.
Okay. Let's keep going.
NYU's decision to adopt a fuller understanding of anti-Semitism sets an example that others in academia should follow for the safety of their Jewish students. Anti-Semitism is best understood as an ancient virus that mutates over time. Colleges and universities must be nimble enough to respond to the modern mutations of an ancient virus that for far too long has been a plague on the soul of humanity.
Again, so it's a mutating virus. No, the strain of anti-Semitism that we encountered when we did the Cooper stuff, that's old school. That's old school. I just don't agree with the premise of this, that it's this mutating thing and that now these young kids who are protesting a genocide are really just figuring out a new way. They are adapting to the new sort of in vogue way of expressing anti-Semitism. No, the people who we just had run-ins with these people. They sound exactly the way they always sounded. Right, like the real ones, ones.
Well, look, they're digging up. I saw us in the chat, so I want to address it. Okay, the idea that some Zionists in Israel would have made a deal with the Nazis to get Jews out of Nazi Germany does not demonstrate that they were behind Nazi Germany or supporting Nazi Germany. That is, and it was controversial at the time that they made that deal. Of course. It's shocking that a Jewish organization might have made a deal with the regime that was killing their people to bring them out of that country. That doesn't demonstrate collaboration or support. But this is what I'm saying. When people see the level of control that Israel has over people like Richie Torres, it allows these people to surface into polite society and express these kinds of views. It gives them more credibility. Yes, and I don't mean to create the misimpression that yes, he's right. The pro-Palestine movement is made up of these people. That I've been to many protests now. That is not my experience. These are some crackpots who are terminally online. But hey, man, when you have these opinions elevated on Tucker Carlson by a Fed with a podcast and absolutely no credentials as a historian whatsoever, being presented as a credible person, doesn't have new documents, no new information to share, just read some books, interpreted it this way that is very much in line with classic neo-Nazi interpretation of the war, and that's getting elevated. I blame Israel for that, and I blame AIPAC for that, because that is a lot of the argument we've heard from what does not represent the pro-Palestine movement as a whole. It is a fringe part that's glommed onto that movement, but they are looking at the level of control that Israel has over the discourse, which they incontrovertibly do, and saying, well, so we have to reevaluate all that because they've probably controlled the discourse about that. How do you know Hitler wasn't the hero?
Right.
Expresses Jew hatred in more ways than one, not only targeting Jews as a religion or as a race, but also as a nation. Anti-Zionism and anti-Semitism are indeed intersectional and cannot be so easily compartmentalized in the real world as they can be in academic papers. The lived experience of many Jewish students tells us that this is so. The substitution of the word Zionist for Jew is the modus operandi of the new anti-Semitism.
Okay, so talk about damned if you do, damned if you don't, right? Now it's, well, no, we're not criticizing Jews, we're criticizing Zionists. Well, that's what you would do, right? You can't say Jew, so you say Zionist, right? So then is there any way to criticize this ideology without being anti-Semitic? No, and he says it right here.
Right.
I mean, that's exactly what he says. He's just saying you can't speak freely about this.
Well, this is exactly what Israel has conspired to do for its entire existence, to equate being against Israel with being anti-Semitic. And he is formulating that just in the most blatant way possible. This is a clear violation of the First Amendment, but they know how long it would take for that to work through the courts. So they just want to create an environment that chills this speech now.
Exactly. And you know, as the semester continues, we'll see what the protest action is like. Obviously, you have, you know, Eric Adams saying he wants to bring the facial ban, you know, the face covering ban here that will try to chill those. I don't know how enforceable that would be in an environment like New York City.
Right. Yeah.
But they are going to keep trying.
Well, the Covidians will lose their freaking mind. You're talking about a town that had what was the acronym for that?
PPE.
That had PPE vending machines in the subways. Right. You're gonna ban mask wearing here? Good luck.
Colleges and universities must make it clear that the word games will fool no one. Engaging in harassment, intimidation, and discrimination against, quote, Zionists is anti-Semitism both in intent and in effect. And academia should never hesitate to say so clearly and punish it swiftly. Projecting moral clarity about right and wrong does not weaken the academic enterprise. It strengthens it. I am calling upon every college and university to follow NYU's example and modernize their non-discrimination and non-harassment policies. Jewish students are entitled by law to institutions that are dedicated to their safety as an essential element of their education.
So, you know, as Russell was saying, that
now.
Okay, good. Thank you very much. Sorry, I thought you were done. You know, as Russell was saying, you know, when you see people like Richie Torres come out and just spout these talking points off, it allows actual anti-Semites to be mainstreamed in a way that they could not have been in recent years and in recent decades. Now, Richie Torres is an absolute moron. He is a man of zero integrity whatsoever. He knows nothing about Jewish people. He cares nothing about Jewish people. He only cares about who pays him. AIPAC is consistently his top donor, cycle after cycle. And so that's why he says this. So he says this with no care or concern for the impact, not just on the discourse, not just on the standards of speech and expression at institutions of supposed higher learning, but with no thought or care about how it impacts actual Jews. Like, this is why this is part of the reason why I really wanted to do this. Like, Russ and I encountered some actual anti-Semites, and they are nothing like the ones he talks about here. He is trying to make the formulation that everyone who advocates for a free Palestine is some incarnation of a neo-Nazi. That's basically what he's saying.
Yes,
and your word games are not going to fool anyone. Word games, you mean like distinguishing between Jews and Zionists? That's a word game now. That's not actually a legitimate expression. Like, the very thing you would say to prove you're not an anti-Semite when you criticize Israel is the thing he's telling you we see through, right? He's saying that is dishonest. So he's creating a situation where, yeah, damned if you do, damned if you don't. What he's saying is there is no room for dissent on this issue, so keep your mouth shut or else. And as we'll get into in our next and final segment of the day, you're starting to see that attitude dictate the policies of these universities.
Yeah, it's really disgraceful and disgusting, and it's such a clear violation of people's right to speech, and it is also something bound to create an enormous backlash. None of this is helping to protect Jews. It is simply reinforcing the idea that Jews have a unique power over the government and over society, and Jews don't, but Israel does.
Right.
Israel does. And this is another dangerous step towards conflating those two things. And to Keaton's point, you know, genuine anti-Semites are not running around being like, you know, I wanted to use a slur, but I don't want people to think I'm anti-Semitic. Dude, we have people coming at us who literally have freaking the white genome must be preserved ads on their profiles.
Right.
Okay, like these people are not shy about letting you know what they believe. That's the whole point. They want you to know that they believe that. A certain lunatic fringe has glommed onto the legitimate protest movement around Palestine, and hijacked it for their own purposes. What I am saying is when people who are not very informed about any of this see that, hey, man, I mean, what if any other country, is there any other country that the whole government goes into hysterics over if people start protesting their government? Can you imagine if Italy had this kind of power, like everyone would just lose we need to pass anti-Italian discrimination laws. Like nobody does that. So it does make make more people susceptible to the argument. Well, see, you might have dismissed the idea that there's a secret cabal running the world, but look what's happening right now. Look at how these politicians behave. What other explanation is there? And the truth is right out in the open, and this is part of the irony too. AIPAC and all of the tactics that Israel has used over the decades is in a lot of ways a response to their logic that the Holocaust happened because we didn't have a state that could fund this kind of propaganda and this kind of control over governments. So we have to have that kind of control over governments so that nothing like that can ever be allowed to happen again, because through our state, we have a level of lobbying, influence, and control that will force them not to allow something like that to happen again. In the course of that, they have created more anti-Semitism and more backlash than they have prevented. That is the sad tragedy, along with the fact that they created a racist apartheid state in response to one.
Right. Yep. Kenman G. Constantine Cassine said about the pager attack, what good are 72 versions when you lose your balls? Surprised that some consider him a brilliant satirist. Yeah, no, a lot of them were obsessed with that too. Ben Shapiro.
No, we got into that with Kim, because I talked about my experience at the douchebag dialogues and how there's supposed to be dissidents, not one dissident view on foreign policy. There is not one thing you would have heard at the douchebag dialogues, except from a couple of rare brave souls like Lee Fong who were there. But pretty much entirely, it could have come off Anthony Blinken's desk. Everything regarding foreign policy. That's how these people are. They claim to be dissident, but foreign policy, they're in lockstep with the U.S. State Department.
Eric Cousseau, thanks for the $1. Remember Moscow on the Hudson. Thank you, Eric Cousseau.
I do, yeah.
Penny Arcos, wasn't the Havana Agreement created to circumvent BDS and to fund gas chambers and to fund the what? Oh, the Havara Agreement, sorry. And to fund the Zionist colony in Palestine. Thank you, Penny Arcos. Joseph George, thanks for the $19.17 super sticker. Is that a World War I reference? 1917. Thank you, Joseph. Sparky, thanks for the $10.
Is once again to answer that. No. Listen, if you have a country killing your people, it's not unusual that you might make a deal to get your people out.
Right.
This is part of what they keep referencing, that they made a deal to get Jews out of Nazi Germany. Who wouldn't? Rich Jews supported going to war with Germany. Well, what if it were Chinese people being mass murdered? The Chinese supported our involvement in World War II because the Japanese were killing them. Was that a conspiracy that China wanted? Oh, wow. Really? The Japanese are killing and raping them, and they want Westerners to go to war with Japan. Shocker.
Right. China Show. I knew a Nazi at my high school said he would spend all lunch trying to convince me that the people in the camps only died of typhus and starvation because the evil allies bombed the trains. Not subtle. Yeah, no, they're not subtle. Where did Daryl Cooper go to high school? I mean, where did you go to high school? Sorry, trying to shill. Thank you for that. Appreciate that. Let's see. All right, we got Sparky. Thanks for the $10. Some say the pager plot was meant for the midst of a Lebanon invasion, but Israel thought the plot was discovered, so pulled the trigger early, efforting to get some value out of the elaborate plot. Magnus Scalagrisms, thank you. Starting work at a Do Dissidents live stream. Score. Cheers, boys. Thank you, Magnus. Appreciate that. Sparky, thanks for the $10. Most Christians don't know Muhammad was heavily influenced by Christianity and considered Jesus a brother. Notice when Muslim mentions Jesus, like with Muhammad, they say, may peace be upon him. Thank you, Sparky. Appreciate that very much. We're going to pause for just a moment here for a word from our supporters. Want to take this of our Locals members, our Patreon members, and our Substack members. So you can join this show by going to dodissidents.locals.com and sign up for as little as $5 a month to our supporter community. We also have a Patreon page and a Substack page. So patreon.com/dodissidents and dodissidents.substack.com. Whichever platform you choose to support us at, that's your choice. We are streaming now to our Locals page. Because the other two do not have that capability, but we do have a members only chat functioning on the Locals page for all of our live streams now. So that's a cool added perk of signing up there. For $5 a month, you get your name up in lights here on the show credits. You also get call-in access to our weekly post-show Q&As, which are exclusively on Rumble. And you get 2 bonus streams per month, interactive call-in live streams exclusive to paid members, as well as special events. We're going to live stream Russell's tour. We live streamed our live shows in New York City. Our arts festival coming up in the spring of next year is going to be live streamed to our members. So your membership is what keeps this operation afloat. You guys are the backbone of the show. We say it every time because we mean it every time. So thank you very much for your support. Okay, we will, move on down the list here. Quintessential. Thank you for the $25. Vietnam. Will Russell visit on China trip? And Nepal have communist governments aligned with USA to feed their people compromised with empire. Sad reality. Are you going to Vietnam or no?
Okay, so that I am conceiving as 2 separate trips. I want to go to China and Australia in the spring, and I want to do Southeast Asia in the fall. We will see if the world is on fire, not allowing me to do that.
All right, so we will wait and see. Kuznetsky Bassane, thanks for the $1.99. Richie Torres, king of fascist rhetoric. Thank you very much. Tom, let's get out the big cowbell for Tom. $199.99, a $200 donation.
Yo.
That is extremely generous. Thank you very much for that. Appreciate that so much. It's very kind of you, Tom. I'm a Gen X black guy from the Bronx. My mom worked her butt off to send me to private school in Westchester. Many of my friends were white, rich Jews. Even in the 80s, I fought with them about Israel and Palestinian rights. Then we'd go get drunk and smoke a J. Now I'm anti-Semitic. Interesting. So now you're talking about in this heightened environment, they call you anti-Semitic.
I just want to point out, because some people in chat are going, this was long before the Havara Agreement was long before they were slaughtering Jews. It's a little hard to get a copy now, but you should read Mein Kampf. You should look into Kristallnacht. You should look into the Yellow Stars. You should look into the restrictions that were placed on Jews. Just because the concentration camps and the final solution had not been instituted does not mean that was a good place for Jews at that point. The fact that you have to resort to those kinds of arguments shows the kind of rabbit hole you've gone down, and I would ask you to consider who you're listening to.
All right, thank you, Tom, for that very generous super chat. Appreciate that very much. Israel is a kickback money laundering situation, says Sparky. Congress gives Israel money, and Israel kicks it back to individual congressmen and senators who play ball. A contagious, difficult to break vicious cycle. Thank you, Sparky. Appreciate that very much. All right, we got one more segment for you guys, and then we are closing the lights on the stream. So this is a TikTok video that kind of made the rounds from a student at Barnard College. Russell found this piece. So do you want to set this up?
Yeah, we have that slide, right? So we give her credit.
Load that in? That's right. You know what? I forgot to load that in. Hold on. Stand by.
I definitely want to credit the creator. I don't just want to steal her stuff.
I forgot about that because this is just a citizen here, not from an outlet. So here, hold on. Let me do this. There we go.
Yep. Okay, so Barnard, which is actually a sub-college of Columbia, it's a women's college. It has its own board of directors. It has its own administration, but technically it's part of Columbia. They are getting the Columbia treatment because presumably they're not doing this at Barnard and not at Columbia. None of these administrators wants to go the way of Minouche. So they are really cracking down on these kids to make sure that they don't rock the boat and get anyone dragged in front of a crazy congressman who asks them if they want to court the wrath of the God of the Bible. So this is Marie Adele Grosso. I'm sure she endeared herself to the administration with this viral TikTok. So let's see what her school experience has been thus far.
I go to Barnard College here, 10 insane things they've done this semester, and it's not even the third week of classes. Starting off strong, they told our professors that they could not express any geopolitical viewpoints. An example of a geopolitical viewpoint would be Black Lives Matter. 2, they put in my housing contract that they are not subject to New York housing law and can kick me out at any time without warning. 3, also in our housing contract, we are told that we cannot hang political signs in our dorms. 4, just along this theme, they also admin can search our rooms by going through like absolutely anything at any time without warning if they think it's necessary. 5, we have designated protest hours, which I believe are between 2 and 6 p.m. and we can only protest on one specific space and we can't make too much noise. 6, they have already suspended students and removed them from housing. Some of them had disciplinary cases from prior and they waited until they paid tuition, came to school, and then suspended them. 7, they did call the NYPD to arrest students on the first day of class for protesting, and the NYPD carried out extremely brutal arrests. This is like a personal grievance, but they did personally threaten to arrest me for going to science class because my day didn't work and they thought I was interim suspended, even though I wasn't. And so like the police officer came over and I was like, I am not going to get arrested for attempting to go to science class today. Like, I will figure it out. Yeah, that was fun. And then my dean had to escort me to classes. Anyway, 8, they banned us from using our printing dollars to print anything political. 9, I was told personally by an administrator that people in the civil rights movement should have gotten arrested because the civil rights movement, even though they were doing the right thing, they were breaking a rule, and if you break a rule, you get arrested, and so rules are rules, and if you want to put that at risk, that's a good thing, but regardless of if they are good rules or bad rules, you are going to face the consequences, and that's also good. And last but not least, they are proudly and openly surveilling their students constantly. So this has been super fun. Not to mention, if we break any rules, we risk losing our housing, health insurance, schooling, food, access to community, access to healthcare in general, and so much more. I literally have resolved disciplinary issues, and I'm still struggling to get access to things like my meal plan. We are being personally targeted by administrators. Like, I am being literally, I spent the first week and a half of school being psychologically manipulated by 45-year-old women, which was super fun. I'm staying at this school because I love my peers, I love the faculty, I love the staff. They are amazing. They are the best that I could ever want to work with. But the administration is oppressive and awful to work under, and they advertise themselves as an activist school for activists. So it's put us all in this really awful position where the highest up administrators are making these terrible decisions that are deeply impacting my life. Deeply.
All right, so look, if we stopped at each one, we'd be here for an hour with this segment. Yes. So we figured it'd be better to just let that play all the way through. But she sums it up very well at the end, which is, Barnard advertises itself as an activist school, like that is known for its like political consciousness, and now go from that to, well, you're not allowed to use the school printer to print anything political. I guess they don't want them printing flyers for the rallies on school stationery. So you go from a school that advertises itself, that boasts of its sort of activist bona fides, to a school that now will not allow you to use their infrastructure for activism. That is how far they have fallen. And to the point where she says, what, item number one? What was item number one? Hold on. I know.
I go to Barnard College, here are 10 insane things they've done this semester, and it's not even the third week of classes.
This is quick.
Starting off strong, they told our professors that they could not express any geopolitical viewpoints.
Yeah, so you tell your professors.
Which, how do you even do that at a university?
You can't express geopolitical school viewpoints. Yeah. I went to SUNY New Paltz for a semester. One of my professors there was a guy. He was a radical. He actually knew Che Guevara personally and wanted to go and fight with him in Bolivia, but Che told him no. He says, you're young, you have your whole life ahead of you, don't come. Which means he knew he was going to die. But anyway, that's at New Paltz. This is Barnard. This is, like I said, this is a school that's known for this. This is part of why these students come to Barnard College. Right. Like, why would you enroll in a school like Barnard College if you didn't want to nurture your political consciousness, right? And now they're saying, well, actually, wait a minute. Hold on. Bad timing, girls. Bad timing, girls. Now we can't do any of this. We can't do any of this because of the circumstances.
Well, this is what we said right after, and I dropped that article about how this was really the social justice movement turning back on its creators.
Exactly, yes.
They loved the social justice movement as long as it was aimless, purposeless, had no particular impact on real power structures, meaning the money,
right?
Not fucking with the money, not fucking with the military industrial complex,
right?
Not fucking with the donors of big politicians that you're friendly with. As long as it didn't impact that, as long as it was about microaggressions, man, they want you fighting about people trying to touch black people's hair all day. They love that. Doesn't cost Wall Street a nickel. Doesn't stop one bomb from being manufactured. But man, you start getting into this shit. Wow. That questions the whole underpinning of our society, right? Of our governmental system, because they're all being paid by the military industrial complex. They're all in service to that power structure. Once these kids start going after that, all of a sudden they don't care about brown people anymore. Not those brown people, not the brown people having their children's faces blown off by pagers.
Right.
Those brown people don't matter all of a sudden. Oh, Black Lives Matter. Well, not Palestinian lives, apparently. And they saw that hypocrisy and it infuriated them. And now this is their response. I don't even know why you would go there at this point.
Yeah,
like,
right.
Why would you go there?
What is the pitch? What is the reason to go to a school like that? What is the point? Right. Yeah, and now, with the summer vacation, they've had a chance to sort of regroup and reset and dictate policies. So they're, implemented day one of the new semester. And now, the mask is off. The mask is off. Even at a college like Barnard, your professors aren't allowed to talk politics, and you're not allowed to print political materials at the school library. So then what are you there for? And this is what I've always said about academia. Academia is a counter-revolutionary institution. You don't go through academia to dismantle the system. You go through academia to be absorbed into the system. It is a gateway into the system. That's what these places have always been. To the extent that they have allowed anti-establishment sentiment to fester there, it is for that exact reason, because it is guilt management for people who go through. Well, yeah, sure. I graduated with a business degree from Harvard, but while I was there, I learned how terrible this country has treated black people and Native Americans. So I guess that means I'm a good person, even though now I'm going to be one of the leaders of tomorrow who presides over this system, right? I bore witness to the suffering that this country has caused at college, and because I bore witness to that that means my hands are squeaky clean, even though I'm now going to be a perpetrator for the rest of my life and get paid a lot of money to do it.
Well, to tie it back to the Matt Walsh segment, this is a lot of the purpose of the vocabulary, not necessarily the industry, but the vocabulary of DEI and postmodernism. A lot of it is really to distinguish what John McWhorter, in one of his better moments, in my opinion, describes as the elect. It is to distinguish you from the deplorables. That's why there's all this dense jargon and vernacular around it. That's not a bug. It's a feature. That's the point.
Right.
Because they want to be able. This is why they go berserk when these movies built around these premises or video games go completely bankrupt and destroy their producing studios. This is why they go berserk, because these are people who very often come from these kinds of schools where they're trained to believe that they have the capacity and the God-given right to dictate tastes and opinions to everybody else.
Right.
Exactly.
Exactly.
And when they reject it in the forms where they can reject it, refusing to buy a ticket to a movie, refusing to buy a copy of a game, they go berserk, because it's a challenge to that entire premise that they can dictate this. And then they call the manager. They go to the media and get the media to write articles about the deplorable fans and this toxic racist fan base. And really, it's all about their offense at the idea that they mastered all this jargon, they mastered all this vernacular, they mastered all these concepts, and they can't get the deplorables to go along with it. And they just keep doubling and tripling down on censorship, on media campaigns, on cancel campaigns against these people. You know, I said when we reviewed the Walsh thing that that's all falling apart under the weight of its own contradictions, and it is. But I think at this particular moment, it's also partly all falling apart because the ruling class that this was aimed at has now seen that it's all a sham.
Right. Exactly. And that's a major part of it. And that was evident in the early days of these protests. That's why you wrote the article when you did. I mean, what was that? November of last year? I mean, it was very, very quick. It was very, very easy to see what was happening and how that whole facade just crumbled very, very quickly. Right. Now it's a year later. They've had a summer vacation. A lot of the, well, not a lot of the, but a fair amount, certainly at institutions like Columbia, Harvard, UPenn. The administrations have been swapped out. There's new personnel, a little bit of a fresh start. Now they can craft policies in a way that they hope will contain this activism from day one. All right, Eric Rousseau, Dystopia U, how much are they paying a semester to live in authoritarian hell?
Seriously,
they could have
why would
enlisted
you
for
go
that
there?
and got paid. Exactly, yeah, why would you do that?
Sounds fucking terrible.
Horrible. Absolutely horrible. Thank you, Eric Rousseau. Fertile Green, I bore witness. Now watch this drive. Yeah, exactly. Yes, exactly. You get the point, Fertile Green. Appreciate that very much. All right, folks, that's our show. Thank you very much for being here today. Thank you to all of our Rumblers and our YouTubers. We appreciate you all very much. We will see you back here at 7 p.m. on Sunday night. That is September 22nd. Appreciate you all very much for spending your morning with us. Enjoy the rest of the day. Enjoy the weekend. And we will see you back here Sunday. Until then, be safe and be well.
Courage!
Please clap.